Mr. Freeman, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Lloyd, Commissioner Winfrey, Commissioner Getzinger, Commissioner Brown,
Here.
Commissioner Avery, Commissioner Shoemaker, Commissioner Kuznow,
Here.
Commissioner Wayhill,
Here.
Commissioner Flewelling.
We have a quorum. Mr. Winfrey is excused. Do we have any public address this evening? If we do, we're going to have you step up and you can be seated at this microphone here. And just as a reminder, we allow for 2 minutes, and we ask that you state your name and your community of residence.
My name is Brandy Pirtle, and I'm here as a resident of Burton, Genesee County. I'm not going to take up too much of your time tonight. I know this is a workshop, and flock isn't on the agenda, but as residents of Genesee County, we understand that the current term of a county flock contract ends on September 30th. We assume renewal will be discussed soon, so we wanted to begin this conversation with you now. We know this is not just another technology contract. These are people's lives and privacy. Flock records, ordinary people doing ordinary things. Flock records ordinary people doing ordinary things. When those records are combined and searched, they can reveal deeply personal patterns about a person's life. Mass surveillance isn't safe, and no company can guarantee that that will be. The great deal has happened since the Genesee County entered this agreement. Former Milwaukee police officer Joshua Ayala pleaded guilty to attempted misconduct in public office after using flock for personal tracking. He was convicted, resigned, and was sentenced. Communities are also rejecting the idea that more surveillance automatically creates more safety. Oceana County stopped its flock trial here in Michigan. Yesterday, Kendall County, Texas voted unanimously not to renew, and Pflugerville, Texas anonymously ended its agreement. A system helping solve crimes does not prove that this system is safe. It does not prove that innocent people's information can be accessed, shared, or misused, that it cannot be accessed, shared, or misused. Residents shouldn't have to prove that something terrible will happen before our privacy matters. The burden belongs to the county and to Flock to prove that this system is necessary, controlled, effective, and safe before it's renewed. This is the beginning of information we intend to bring to your attention, so please do not renew Flock first and investigate later. Thank you for your time, for listening, and we hope you consider the moral cost of people's privacy when looking at the price tag to record it.
Thank you. Do we have additional public address? Elizabeth?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Good evening.
Is that intentional that this chair sits long? Is this intentional that the chair sits long?
Oh,
Well, that's
no.
okay, I was just saying. Is it on? Yep. Okay, thank you. So my name is Elizabeth Taylor, and I still reside in Genesee County. I'm here to make a point that I am not against recycling centers. That is not, I mean, I got a great big giant one in front of my house that, the mayor gave to all of us. That is not what I'm here about. What I'm here about is that the precious property for some reason has been chosen, which those of us are from Flint, and I'm 83 officially, is known as the old McDonald Dairy property. And Flint is flat. Saginaw Valley is flat. That's why we have. That's a high point in Flint. It's a lovely parcel of land. And it could just sit there. It could just be a lovely parcel of land. It really doesn't have to be developed. I hope the county thinks about that. So there are some funding risks, I'm sure. I don't think that you have uncovered to us that the whole property is being utilized yet. So I'll just read from this. Funding risk. Large public construction projects should have complete funding identified before the work proceeds, whenever possible. Beginning project without confirming funding for all phases can be increased the risk to delay the scope, reduction, or additional requests for funding. So one of the things I asked for the last time I was here was for there to be a public forum about this project. I was contacted by planning. Good evening, Reverend Felker. I was contacted by a planning staff person that I did not respond to because I did. May I have some more time?
Without objection.
So I didn't respond because I didn't know who it was, and I don't want to have a one-on-one meeting. What I wanted was a public forum, and I think that's beneficial for all of us. So there's future liability. Public facilities often remain in service well beyond the original design life. The community should understand who will be responsible for the maintenance, upgrades, environmental monitoring, and eventual site redevelopment decades into the future, because there was a bombing. Not a bombing, I'm sorry. Because there was an accident, an explosion, that's the word I want, in Ohio at a recycling center just last week. So we want to know more about that. And we don't want a recycling center, which you know what I've been calling it, a dump. I don't want that down the street from an elementary school. I don't want that down the street from the Gloria Coles Library, the Flint Institute of Arts, the whole cultural center, and 1 block from Flint River. And government has assaulted the Flint River. I'm here to say, please leave the Flint River alone. So there are better alternatives. Better alternatives. Oh, thank you. Why aren't you there all the time? So better alternatives. Before approving a site, decision makers should demonstrate that alternative locations were used. Objective criteria such as environmental impact, transportation access, capabilities for surrounding land use, and long-term community plan. As a construction professional, they should also be telling you about technical questions like, was there geotechnical investigation completed, and when was it concluded? I could just go on because I've talked to people in the community, and they don't want a dump there. We don't want it, and we're pleading with you to please. There are many places. I can help you find another location if that's what the problem is. I'd be more than happy to do
Thank
that.
you.
And understanding that Flint is not saying we don't want to recycle. That's not the focus. But that's what I keep getting information on is let me tell you what the recycling center does. That's not it. That is not.
Thank you. You're welcome. Do we have additional public comment? Additional public comment? Yeah, Pastor, if you'd like. So, remind speakers that there are 2 minutes, and we ask you to identify yourself and where you reside.
My name is Reverend Freelon Threlkell Jr. I live in Flint, Michigan, long time. Great graduate of the best high school in the nation, Flint Central Indian, 1960. I've been around Flint since 1953. When Flint was flourishing and doing great things. Flint was the hub of a lot of industrialization and better living situations and so on and so on. So not to take up my 2 minutes, I support Sister Taylor in what she said. She had her stuff all figured out electronically, but I'm just an old Baptist preacher. I speak from my heart. And I says what I says and mean what I say. But we don't need another dumpster or any terrible site on that Chavez, Robert T. Longway corner. Because Flint represented beautification. I know this is the county, and a lot of people don't live in the inner city. They come in and they leave. But we are here all the time, 24/7. Flint has a bad name right now. So we're trying to turn it around. We can do that if we, the people, work together with our leadership. We can turn Flint around to the days that we used to have back in the day. So beautification is my thing. Whatever you do with that lot, we don't need a recycle nothing. It's enough junk around Dordt Highway and other places. You can do what you want to do with that. But that particular corner should be, and I just simply ditto what the previous speaker said, because Flint needs beautification. We need positivity in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reverend. Do we have additional public address? Do we have additional public address? One last time, additional public address. Public address is closed. Thank you. Mr. Lloyd.
Mr. Chair, before you proceed, thank you. I appreciate the comments of the both speakers, and I've received nonstop concerns from our residents across my district, as the property they spoke of is in my district, and as well as at the community meetings as well, concerns about the recycling center being on that property, and many have echoed the same as shared by the general lady who Taylor, who spoke a few months ago, I know your name, who mentioned that, I almost lost my train of thought, that wasn't, it's not anti-sentiment for a recycling center, but great concerns about that particularly parcel of property. So I would like to work with our staff to look at planning some type of community forum so that residents across community at large, but certainly those in the district and in those neighboring communities can come in, receive information, share their sentiments, and then I'll reserve what my thoughts are until we hear from the public, because we haven't done that yet, and then have discussion among the board about this. So I just wanted to say that because it's come up in a few meetings, but I just want to echo what I've heard from residents across my district.
Welcome. Under communications, we have the Director of Administration report. Under the item A obviously is priorities discussion, which is what we set this up for, but I did ask if Josh would spend a few minutes, and possibly with Ray and Brian as well, to talk about the parking situation in the back of the new county building and what was announced this morning, just to bring everyone up to speed. So, Mr. Freeman.
Yep, so before you is a copy of a letter that our Corporation Council wrote to the DDA concerning, talking about our concerns with the condition of the parking ramp. No surprise, you guys park in there every time. The parking ramp has deteriorated significantly since we've moved in. The DDA has closed off large sections of that area. And we had concerns about the safety of it, not just for our staff, but also for those facility. Ray reached out to one of our engineering firms and asked them to come and just do a brief walkthrough and give, quick assessment of whether or not they felt that it was safe. And in that letter, you'll see Brian is running a engineering firm on the side. A letter from McMillan Associates that basically the first sentence on the third paragraph, I think, sums it up. In my professional opinion, the conditions observed present an immediate hazard to the public. This morning, the DDA held their monthly meeting, and I was there to talk about this with them and telling them, as I have on several occasions, that we need to get start migrating staff out of that ramp to other locations that they own. And after we presented them this letter along with those pictures that are attached, they agreed, or they decided to close the ramp starting tomorrow morning to any public. They have worked today to get all of our staff's park cards switched over to where they can either use the Rutherford lot deck, which is where we're encouraging all of our staff to the extent that there's space available to park at, and then also they will have availability at the flat lot. Obviously maybe not obviously to everybody, but the DDA has financial constraints. They don't have money to fix the problems that are there, which are estimated to be around $6 million. So the board has, or is setting up a meeting with some of our local foundations to see if there is funding available to help offset that cost. I have talked to you guys a couple of different times about probably the need, not probably, the need to start looking for other property where maybe we need to put a parking facility in, not a ramp, but just someplace that we could purchase, pave it, and move some of our staff there. One of the things that I was going to request, I didn't know I was doing this at the beginning, I thought I would do it at the end, but maybe this board tonight creates a group of maybe 3 people, maybe the vice chair, the finance chair, and the public works chair, who would be authorized to kind of move in an expedited manner to look for property and paving. Previously recommended or suggested a space for a building that's for sale, and we don't think that we can get enough spaces out of that particular place. But there are some other locations that are vacant that are in close proximity to this building that may make sense, but
You all have any questions?
and just one other thing, Ray and I actually went out and counted the empty spaces in both the flat lot and the Rutherford deck today, and at that moment in time, there was about 250 empty spaces available. We do have several vehicles that we park in the Rutherford ramp, and we are looking at whether or not we'll need to move those down to the McCreef lot.
Thank you, Josh. Do we have any questions for Mr. Freeman about this topic tonight? Mr.
Can I just say one other thing? So we notified staff today that beginning tomorrow morning, they can't park there. And that the DDA was working on changing their park card access to both of those facilities. Ray is going to have staff at the ramp and the flat lot tomorrow morning just to help. If staff's card is not working, we'll have people there that can get them in while we work to fix their access with the DDA.
Thank you. Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern is we have enough trouble with some of our residents, especially people who are not familiar with the downtown district, getting in and out of the building. I don't know what to do with this because obviously leeriness of entering into the agreement, I voted parking in this building because I was worried about parking. Now we're invested in this beautiful facility we've created, but unfortunately we have no place to put our employees or our residents. So my fear is we can find places all over the city to have them park, but are people going to know, are they where to park? Does it require additional safety? Does it require additional officers? These are all costs that are on us. On top of it, I hope the DDA would work out a deal with us that, guess what, we should quit paying because they, in my opinion, they're in breach. Even though they let us use the other property, we paid a premium to be in this lot, not to have our employees walk that far or our residents walk that far. We've all seen the seniors here. I mean, and my dad's been around here 80 years, and guess what he did? He parked in the wrong spot, got a ticket. This is concerning because we are supposed to be problem solvers for our residents, problem creators, and this is creating a huge problem. I understand they don't have the resources, but I hate to say it, that's not our problem. You signed an agreement that you would provide services. They're not providing those services to our residents. I think, unfortunately, we need to have Corporation Counsel look out to what other action we can take against the DDA. They knew there was a problem. We've known there's a problem for a year. And they did very minimal other than blocking off spaces. They had lack of communication with our director of administration. I'm sorry, and that's who we've asked to do this. So I think we need to look into how we can take action against the DDA. I definitely don't. We would be in breach of our side of the contract for not paying because we signed an agreement to have and park out here. I want to know how this board would like to move forward, but I would like to authorize Brian to come back and next meeting some action we can take. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Is there additional comment or discussion? Mr. Cousineau.
been my experience in the past in working with several other DDAs in my district. Ultimately, the city is from McMillan or his advice should include that. I would like to know how much they're responsible, because ultimately, it's my understanding we should go after them in any legal proceedings.
Additional comments, Dr. Brown?
Thank you. I noticed in the letter, it said that the county has requested that even more employees be allowed to park in the Rutherford lot, but those requests have been ignored. How long have they been ignored?
Yes, and when, on the off chance that they do respond, the number is different, and then there's no follow-through. We've been trying, our contract does state that we would use both for employee parking, both Rutherford and the riverfront ramp. And when they started closing off spaces out there, we asked to migrate even more people to Rutherford to open up spaces for the public to park there. And that's where we were getting a response from the DDA.
When you and Ray went over to count the those were empty spaces like in the middle of the day or something?
11 o'clock, 11:30, something like that today.
So those would be spaces that potentially our employees could use? I agree with my fellow commissioners, we should take action.
Just to clarify, when I'm saying looking for other property as well, that would be for our employees to clear up space in the ramp or the flat lot for the public.
We have additional questions or comments? I have a couple. So it's my understanding that the DDA did their own assessment of the parking structure and sent it to us in summer of last year. Did we analyze that before we made the move to make sure the parking structure would be adequate?
So that was done actually after the move, and that was done at our request. We knew that there were repairs needed at the lot, but if you remember when we moved in, the entire lot was open at the time. We offered to actually even pay for the assessment just so that it would move forward and we would have a baseline of where to start, and they said, no, we can do it ourselves. So I eventually, after not hearing anything from them, I got with our purchasing department and asked them to find some names of engineers who could come in and do an assessment of the ramp. But ultimately, the DDA then took those names, picked one, and had that assessment done. That's where they said there were some immediate concerns. I think, Ray, let me know if I'm wrong on these numbers, but of around 1.5 million that needed to be taken care of right away, and then some longer terms in the amount of around $6 million.
We had that. We asked them to do that after we'd moved in. What did we do in the run up to the, going forward with the project to be down here in terms of the parking structure? What did we do there?
So we didn't have an official assessment done of the parking structure because we weren't owning the parking structure. And we knew that, just from being in those structures, that there were alternatives for the county. But it was a matter of working that out with the DDA. We could go over to Rutherford, for example.
Did they ever tell us that the parking structure was not in a position to be full? Never. Okay. I had a conversation this morning with the director of the DDA, and she says otherwise.
I can tell you that she says a lot of things that don't turn out to have any basis in reality.
Okay. Mr. Cousineau.
A while ago, I know there's some discussion about paying them in advance to give them the money to do some of that initial repairs. And then I don't remember it ever progressing past that point other than we discussed it, but it never occurred. So
Yeah,
Haven't paid them in advance.
we have not paid them in advance. No, that would have required board action.
Right.
Yeah,
If I ever saw anything.
yep, the idea was that we would pay them in full for the contract, which would be an additional, at that time, I think it was 2 years. They would use that to jumpstart some of the repairs, and in turn, we would have received a reduction on our validation amount from $5 to $3 for validations. But
Want to make sure we didn't do it.
it never got any traction on our end, but it also got no traction on their end. If, it's very hard to get a response. For example, that ramp has been open to the public. It's a free-for-all. Anybody can go in there, so they've lost out on that revenue for the entire time that we've been here, of people parking there. And if I'm a revenue-strapped entity, I would be doing everything in my power to ensure that I'm maximizing payback.
All right, want to be mindful of our time. Commissioner Lloyd.
Do we have anything in the contract? I'd like a copy of the contract.
I requested that Brian bring those. Do you have those? Would you pass them out?
Go ahead. Package.
I like Cliff Notes.
Is there anything in this agreement, contract to make repairs? 'Cause we knew that maybe not the extent of the repairs,
We knew that,
but shall
yeah.
keep premises in good and safe condition. What about the payment, the month-over-month payments that we pay for?
400 spaces.
400 spaces. Do you know about how many spaces?
I don't know how many spaces are available, it ebbs and flows with college being in. So in the summer, there's a little bit more free space, but that was before they closed off the entire top and then other sections as well. So I don't know how many are available.
400, do you think?
No, like everybody who has a park card has parking access. We're paying for 400 spaces for our staff.
I just want to understand if we've been paying for spaces that are not
No. No, because it was contemplated at the beginning that we would have spaces at both ramps, right? So as they close that ramp, we move some folks over to Rutherford. So we've always, any staff person who has a card has had access.
And then additionally, I know that traditionally the mayor of the city is the chair of the board. Is that still the case? I don't know. I used to be up on that.
Yep.
Has there been outreach to him? And what is, just as any chair of any board, is there anything you can share now?
Yeah, sure. So just from the meeting this morning, the mayor was there, chaired it. He made the, I won't say motion because it wasn't exactly a motion, but he urged that the ramp, now that they've been notified it's unsafe, that the ramp be closed immediately. And he directed the DDA director to work with us to her best ability to make sure that our people are moved. And then he also talked about setting up a meeting with members of the DDA, city, and somebody from the county to sit down with our local foundations and Yep. And if I can just add one other thing, as part of those discussions this morning, we had conversation about the parking in front of the pavilion, which has been a longstanding issue. Oftentimes our residents, even though there's 6 no parking signs on that side of the road, they'll still park over there and they're getting tickets from the DDA, which if you see the amount of tickets they're putting out, you would think they could build 2 or 3 new ramps since we've been here. But that is not the case. The city is going to move to make that the same 30-minute free parking as it is outside. We sometimes move at the speed of county. I think sometimes the city is a little bit slower even than the speed of county. So I don't want to say that's going to be done by next week, but I will certainly stay on top of that.
Mr. Lloyd?
Do we have an idea of what the average park time is for
Don't have a sense of that now. Because we check them in, but we don't check them out.
is there somebody that we could have study that? I don't know if there's because I guess maybe 30-minute parking, but it may not be enough.
Sure.
If you're like, for instance, particularly, parents that are coming to the WIC office upstairs, and they have small kids, they're parking up front. They have small kids that come in. I don't know what the wait times are in that department. So if 30 minutes is not enough, it creates more of a hardship for our
Yeah.
residents. If they're ticketed, that's a greater
Greater
hardship.
hardship.
So does it need to be 30 minutes parking? Does it need to be an hour parking? The other piece is, if they're closing that ramp, do we need to extend parking down this street here as well? Do we need to add parking? I know my first vote on the Flint City Council in 2008, my very first meeting was to vote to build the Rutherford Bay. That was the first vote. And at that time, it was my first vote, but it was my first, it was a vote I regretted after being there after a couple of months because there wasn't a need for it at that time. Because the DDA, if you remember, you had all of the one-way streets and you had free parking on the streets, et cetera. You know, and so thank God we have it now. But I know that the city has the ability to extend parking in spaces, so maybe we need to look to do that as well. Maybe we need to have, a side designated for parents with small children or something. I don't know, but I think we should study it. Is there somebody we can have bring a recommendation back to us as to what it should look like and what should be done as well?
I can reach out. I worry about on Union Street putting parking on this side because that's the fire lane. So if something happens, we want the fire department to have access.
Just thinking.
Yeah. Yep.
It is, right now the weather's nice. And I think this has already been said. But once that rain and sleet and snow starts coming, that's going to be a major inconvenience and hardship to the residents of the county. And, if we didn't have parking, I would assume there would have been some commissioners at the table before we came to this, voted to build this building that probably would have said, well, maybe we need to look at some. I wouldn't have voted to come here, if we knew parking would be,
We'll say that we are working on Monday, we're going to start validating for, like the WIC office, for veterans, for seniors over in the flat lot. They're going to put a person in the booth there so that we can validate for that staff like we used to do at our other facilities. I know that WIC and the health department in particular do a really good job of directing people as part of their appointment process on where to park. Even though we were directing them back there, we would still have people that didn't follow that.
one more just to follow up as you address that, and I'll digress. Has a communication plan been developed? I'm assuming maybe not as quickly, but I guess I should allow you to answer that instead of just assuming. Is there a communication?
Yeah, so we put out on our socials today about the change. We'll continue to do that messaging. Maybe Brad can speak to this a little better on how they communicate that with their, if you want to come up to the table, Brad, on how they message with their clients for those services, which I think is what you're trying to get to, right?
Yes, and as he comes, because I think we need to be very, very robust in terms of communicating with the public, and not just on our socials. I don't know if there needs to be press releases put out. Maybe we should be proactive and do to the extent we can and do a press conference about it, because ultimately it's the nine of us, as well as the department heads, that residents are going to have concerns with, when they are confronted with that hardship. I don't know if we need to take out ads in live. I don't know if we need to purchase paid marketing for social media, so there's bulletins that pop up. But I'd love to see a comprehensive plan pretty fast, so that we can make sure countywide folks know we care, we're regretful of it, and this is what the parking options are.
So Jared, tonight when he comes up and talks during his portion of the priorities piece, he'll tell you about how we are communicating with staff, or not with staff, but the public, and we can use some of those same avenues, whether that's through Indigov. We put letters from commissioners in all of the senior newsletters, for example. We have that ability to do that, and a number of other ways. And Jared can kind of put that plan together, maybe by end of day tomorrow or Friday morning, and get that out to everybody. Brad, can you talk a little bit about how you communicate with your, I would say the health, besides the clerk's office, the health department probably has the most traffic in this building. How do you communicate with those clients who are coming?
Yeah, so our various programs, WIC, for example, automatically message those who are coming in for the appointments. So every time an appointment is confirmed, they get a confirmation message via text message that states where they should be going, how to get there, where to park, etc., what level to go on once they get on the building. So those are being updated. Our other clinical programs, our electronic health record system has the ability to provide those messages as well during appointment confirmations. So if any of you use MyChart for medical appointments, it allows us to do that through there. And then additionally, we've also updated our social media with the information and created a flyer, a parking flyer. We created one when we moved to the tower. We've updated that with the new information that came out today, and it's posted on our website as well.
Yeah, it's not been all roses with the move here. Honestly, there's been some hiccups, but we're trying to work through those.
What's that?
What about shuttles?
Oh, shuttles.
The reason why I mention it right now is because we got to, I believe that we need to try to limit the hardship. And because we know the winter months are coming, if we look into it now, find out what is the cost going to be, I can assume liabilities, but understanding liabilities, folks will be picked up and dropped off with multiple units. That gives us time to perfect whatever that looks like prior to the change in the weather.
You can reach out to the MTA maybe about doing some sort of.
They had a trolley at one point, right, running down here for.
Yeah, they did, but where we're parking people.
Yeah, I would.
So I wouldn't want like a trolley that's driving all.
Yeah,
over
yeah.
town.
I'm just mentioning that they had a trolley. I saw your hand earlier, and then I've got Commissioner Cousineau. So, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To what Commissioner Lloyd had said, I'm very concerned, and to one of our colleagues that stated that we have handicap. My concern is, one, for a building this size, you're supposed to have so many handicap spaces. It used to be my understanding, as far as the American Disability Act, it's supposed to be so much. I just want to make sure we're not in violation of that. We need somebody to look into that. Did have here that carts with drivers, so I'm glad Commissioner Lloyd brought that up because I think we need to be proactive in this.
I would ask Brian, as Corporation Counsel, if he would look into, any sort of, whether it's ADA or otherwise, what the requirements are.
You watch some of the people come in here. I've told you guys the story before. I've helped people find their cars out there because they're not comfortable or they got some disabilities. This is, for me, it's very upsetting because I know the stress and the and for our staff. Not just coming in, but they're gonna deal with the residents when they're frustrated. So it's kind of frustrating. As far as communication, if I can continue, the problem is with social media is a lot of people don't. Like I mentioned my father before, he has a flip phone. 1 years old, that's what he does. And for him to come down here, if he has to get something or do something, which he does, and we've all seen my dad move, he doesn't move real well. The fact is he doesn't have a handicap sticker, he's not gonna do that. My concern is for residents like this is how you're gonna get the word out. They're gonna come down here, they're gonna drive around an area, most times supposed to be out county, they're not coming into. You know, we talked a while back, Chair and I and Mr. Freeman met about signage. I mean, to me, I believe we need to be more like Disney World with our sign, where it's so simple. If City of Flint doesn't want to work with us, then, you know, we're gonna have to figure something else out. We've got to make this as simple as possible. Carts definitely, Brian will definitely look into that. How many parking spaces we have to make sure we have enough to be compliant. I don't think, to your point, MTA has a vehicle that'll really fit this. I'm picturing more like, I make those really glorified golf carts, which you can close easily with some vinyl, so it's easy to get it out if you have to put somebody on there. So you could put people in there that can get up and down the sidewalks easily. We'd have to make sure we're not violating any city ordinance or anything else like that by driving on the sidewalk. But the problem is there's a cost to all this. In my opinion, it should come out of the money we're giving the DDA. I think we need to take other action because they had ARPA funds. If it is the city of Flint, Commissioner Kuzno is right. It is the city of Flint's responsibility. They had ARPA dollars they could have spent on that garage. They knew they had a contract with us. Don't tell me you didn't know. We were in our old building. We saw it. We knew there was a problem with that too. Parking garages are difficult to care for, and we all know it. Like I said, I appreciate what you had to say, Mr. Commissioner Lloyd. I think we need to be very, very proactive now rather than later. Because weather is coming, and it's only going to make it worse. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Commissioner Kuzino.
Refresh my memory, back in 2020 when we first started looking at this building, you and I drove around counting the spaces. And I know we went through this ramp. I don't know if we went through the Rufford, but I know we did a two-block radius out. And it seems as that was over 1,000 empty spaces. So I guess what I'm getting up to is the space is there, but, you know, in consideration of the things you're saying, we have to make some type of accommodation, whether it's a trolley or whatever, to get those people. But there is about 1,000 spaces within 2 blocks of this building.
Problem is 600 of them are in that
I know.
ramp that's right behind us. So.
Well, I know.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well, I would suggest that we move on to our, unless there's anyone that's got something additional.
Can I just bring up on that? You know, I did mention.
Can I say something real quick? I heard you say something about maybe meeting with funders. I assume that's the Mott Foundation. If the mayor's there, I'd like to be there. So go ahead, Josh.
And as soon as I get that out, the date, I did suggest that maybe you guys put a group together of 3 commissioners that could provide some authorization or guidance as we look to maybe do something outside of that ramp.
I will say, I knew that Commissioner Flewelling would not be here this evening. He had mentioned that earlier last week, so I did call him when I got the email that went out to all employees and was chatting with him about it because he's chair of Public Works. This is obviously a Public Works issue. So I suspect that he'd be willing to lead something. Are there commissioners that would be interested in sitting on that with Commissioner Flewelling? Gary? You? Me? You nominating me? Go ahead.
I was saying that
I'm willing to do it. It's a huge issue. You know, people weren't happy with the parking before now, and now they're going to be even less happy. So I will stop there. Brian, I'm sorry. Thank you. But do I need to call a vote like I did with the other subcommittee or special committee that we created? Is that?
Well, it depends. If you're going to create a committee that has power to do something, you can do that, and it would be subject to the Open Meetings Act. But if you're just putting together an advisory committee, it's not subject to the Open Meetings Act.
That's what I'm doing right there. So it's going to be three of us. Thank you. Commissioner Flewelling, Commissioner Getzinger, and myself. Thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Freeman. All right, so we are gathered here to talk about some positive things. So we, in January, voted to approve unanimously a set of priorities or focus areas, and the staff has been working on these. And Gary and I, maybe a month and a half ago, suggested at one of our leadership meetings with Josh during the week that it's time to do a check-in on these to see, where we're making progress, where we might be stuck, and where we haven't really even started, perhaps. And so Josh created a really, I think, a very fine, easily read document, which is this red, yellow, green sheet, which I call it. And he's got staff lined up tonight to talk about the different areas, and we can have some dialogue around it. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Freeman.
Yeah, thank you. So 4 major priority areas, right? Community and economic growth, long-term financial stability, inclusive collaborative culture, and a healthy, safe, and livable communities. What you see before you there with those focus areas underneath those priorities are just a kind of a very brief discussion of some of the work or no work, as the case may be, that has happened around those focus areas. So green means we're moving in a direction on something, or something has been approved. Yellow means that it's work in progress. We're not quite there yet, but there's been some movement. And then red means there has been no movement on it. So what I thought would be helpful is in each of these 4 priority areas, if we could hear from a staff member who is working on these issues and some of the successes that they have seen over the last year, some of the struggles that they have seen over the last year, and just give you an update to kind of keep some of these, the county's got a lot going on right now, and it's not always easy to keep everything fresh and in front of commissioners and know the breadth or the depth of what is happening across the county. So our first area, community and economic growth, I've asked Derek from Planning, DFP, to come up and talk to you a little bit about specifically around infrastructure projects, right, where we've seen some success there, where the county has been able to act as a convener, and then maybe, I'm not going to say a struggle, but maybe not as much success as we would have liked to have seen in the housing area. So I'll turn it over to Derek to give you that kind of 50,000-foot view of that first priority area.
Derek, before you do that, I did just got a text from Commissioner Flewelling, who is watching us, and he said someone needs to check the audio in the room. You can only hear like every 10th word or so. It says the 30 of the first 40 minutes have been silent online. I don't know who can look into that, but we seem to have an issue with the audio.
I'll look into that from Alan from IT.
All right. Thanks, Alan.
Make sure when you're talking directly into.
Yeah. So, Derek, the floor is yours. That closed caption, maybe.
Okay. Let me see if I can hunch downward and try and get right by the microphone. So I just want to talk a little bit briefly about the county's role as a convener in economic development and recreation, when I say outdoor recreation, right? Okay. So specifically, advanced manufacturing and recreation. I'm going to touch on housing as well, but I'm going to keep that a little shorter. We're all very familiar with Advanced Manufacturing District out in Mundy Township. There's challenges with that site. That is one of the most premier sites for development of that size in the country. However, the road going into it was not federal aid eligible, was not able to handle trucks, terrible condition, unsafe for pedestrian, and very unappealing. That's the front door into one of the nicest sites in the country for development. We got to do something about that. So that was a problem that we had. First step we brought, and this gets back to the county as the convener. We brought the partners together on this project, and the partners: Road Commission, Planning, Board of Commissioners, Economic Alliance, Drain Commission, Flint Township, Mundy Township, Swartz Creek. We sat in this room and talked about how do we make stuff like this happen. That was the first time that all the partners sat at one table and talked about how do we affect change and make something happen. They were very appreciative to be in that room and have these conversations.
They were a bit, like, I'm just going to jump in on a couple. They were a bit reluctant too. Like, some of the local units was, okay, well, how is the county trying to screw us into something here, right? Because that had been their historic engagement with the county, is that the county was coming in to take over, or the county was trying to get the edge against those local units. So we were really trying to create a partnership.
The next step in the process is gather support, right? So 2 parts. You got to get the partners together, gather support. We have letters of support from all of those. We actually have more than those, but we just put a few on the screen. So as we go after trying to work on projects, we can have the support of these institutions behind us. Next step, an action plan. Like, we know what the problem is. How do we go about solving it? First up, let's designate the road for federal funds, because without that, we can't get any federal funds to fix the road. We applied and received technical assistance from the state to put together a grant application. State gave us, we had 6 people working on grant applications for days and days. High quality people that the state gave us at no charge to us. We applied for matching dollars from the Michigan Infrastructure Technical Assistance, apply for conditional funding. What can we do with our own funds, right? We have funding that comes in for roads through the Transportation Improvement Program. What can we do there?
And to that point, that is the county driving forward with the board's priorities, right? Like, you've set a set of priorities. Community and economic growth is an important piece of that. So how are we using our existing programs and our existing funding to actually drive the county's priorities versus just kind of handing it out piecemeal to local units to do whatever?
And then what other fundings from the Flint Economic Alliance can be targeted to this? And then is there other funds out there, county, local? That's just a generic kind of pot. Successes, and we've had quite a bit. We still have a heck of a lot of work to do. We rewarded the technical assistance from the state, which was very helpful, because now we actually, not only do we know it's a good project, we have all the data behind it to be able to prove it's a good project. We got a match from MyoTAC, a lot of acronyms from a state organization. We still have congressional grants that we have not heard back on. $1 million for some preliminary engineering to get going, because that project's got to get going. You just can't snap your fingers and build a road in a day. And there's some money currently programmed. We did receive that one of the grants we went after, we did not receive. We were in the hunt right up to the end. Ultimately, that grant is decided at the executive level at the federal government, and unfortunately, we were not chosen. But we're far from out on this one. Next steps. Road Commission, Genesee County Road Commission. We need to work on getting the preliminary engineering done for that project, because without that, we can't build a project. And there is funding in place for that. We're also looking and communicating about some Michigan Ready Site Grant. We actually have some conversations in with them right now about funding on that. Continued communication, and really working with that entire group about how do we make this project happen is our next step. So we're going to be reconvening that group. We were waiting to hear back on some grants. We have that information now, so we're going to reconvene to figure out how else can we fund Maple Road. And the key part is, and that includes whether it's in Swartz Creek or the road commission, because to us at the county, it doesn't matter, right? That's the gateway into that project, right? So for us, it's a county-wide level project, so how are we dealing with all the roads? Just not one road for one community, right? And how do we make this attractive? I'm gonna switch and talk about Legacy Trails real quick. Similar project, how do we utilize outdoor recreation, right? I've said this before, I'll be really quick. 1.5 new miles of trails a year. It's gonna take us 50 years at the pace we're going to hook all those lines together. There's no identity, no marketing of the existing resources, limited collaboration, and it's very inefficient. It's a mile here, a mile there, a mile there, those type of things.
That's our current state, Dr.
That's the current state. First thing we did, same thing, brought the partners together. So we hosted a meeting with local units of government, just local units of government, local effectives. We had 35 representatives from all local units of government in Genesee County, MDOT, DNR, Mott Foundation, Michigan Green, and we said, what do we need to do with this issue? They came back resoundingly, we got to get one brand, one marketing, and we got to do bigger projects, and we have to work together to make that happen. Next step, we talked about gathering support. We did a trail symposium, 100+ residents from Genesee County at the library. We did presentations for input through neighborhood residents, Neighborhood United, Fitness Foundations, different groups to get support. Action plan goes back to the action plan again. Completion of our County, Our Future master plan with the 5-year trail initiative. A bunch of different applications, state, federal agencies, marketing, branding of trails. We formed an interagency work group, which has not been done, which is all of the major funders and partners that fund recreational activities to focus just on how do we do it in Genesee County. And they meet regularly about how to do larger scale projects. We sent a group to Bentonville to learn from people that have had success in how do they capitalize on outdoor recreation as an economic development and a marketing tool, because we want to learn from others of how they've done it. I'm going to keep going because there's lots of different stuff in there. To date, this is an $80 million project. To date, there's $25 million committed for the Mott Foundation for Trails in Genesee County. We received $15 million in state and federal grants, so that's together about $40 million of the $80 million that we need to complete that. So we're about halfway there. There's just stuff from the Mott Foundation. Next steps, marketing, branding of the legacy trails, right? We had some stuff before this group recently. We have to get the projects designed, engineered so that we can build those projects in larger segments. Construction, continue to meet with the state and local partners, and there is, at any one time, we're working on a grant for some foundation, some federal, state resources that are out there. I'll leave with this. If you have not been out to Silver Lake, this is from yesterday, of the new trail that connects Linden to Fenton. So it's coming along. The last thing I'll say is, and I want to kind of finish with this, these are large scale projects looking to change the course and direction, right? These are big projects. These are not projects that you can snap a finger in one day, get it all done, right? So I talked about these ones. We've had good traction on both of these. Housing. It's a tough road. There is multiple agencies, and I was at a meeting recently, the state of Michigan, there is a lot of funders that have a lot of money to try to do housing in Genesee County, and there hasn't been much luck for anybody, right? It doesn't matter which funder that has money dedicated for funding. And so trying to look holistically at what the root cause is and how do we solve those problems so we can actually affect change is something that we need to be continually engaged to, but goes back to that bringing the groups of people together, right? So that group and convening people towards that common thing and then figure out what the issue is. It's as simple as each step, right? What's the problem? What are the action steps? Bring people along in that group. I will say though, we hosted a meeting just recently, a training for some local units on how to utilize some new opportunities for utilizing some brownfield credits to do housing. And both local units were very receptive and appreciative that the county was coming forward to kind of lead that process because they felt kind of lost. And so I think there is some bright stuff coming for housing. It's not fast enough for me, but I think we're going to see some stuff in the future on that.
Yeah, you know, he talks about that meeting with a number of different groups. Everybody's got a little pot of money, but it's not enough to make the impact, and nobody has been talking to each other to understand what the problem is, what the need is, and to pool those resources to actually have an impact. And that meeting that we had, was it just yesterday, I think, with some local units around providing training around brownfield, that's going to be, you know, I talked to you guys about hosting another kind of mini workshop or group for all of our local units to attend, and that was kind of the kickoff. We want to make sure that we're including not just staff next time countywide, but also elected officials who are going to ultimately be the ones who have to make the decision on whether or not to move forward and to use some of these incentives. So we're looking to do something, I believe, towards the middle to end of September, which isn't that far away. But the county is a convener, right? That's one of those things that you charge staff to do, is to help fill gaps and weaknesses with our local units of government so that we're all successful. Because as Derek always says, if our local units are successful, ultimately the county's going to.
All right, so you were up and you were the first priority or focus area, is that right? So does anyone have any questions of Derek, or because he wasn't able to go through all of these, obviously, and you can see where Josh is in the staff's assessment is that we're moving along, we're kind of sort of moving along, and then we're stopped. Does anyone have anything? Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Derek, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple questions, and I've asked this before, and I'm trying to still understand this. We're putting all these trails in, trying to understand the economic impact. You're telling me that people will come to use our trails. That's where we're seeing the economic benefit for our effort and our time. Correct? Am I understanding that correctly?
I think if I can just jump in, I think it's 2 points, right? Yeah, we believe that if we put a focus on outdoor activity as an economic development tool, I believe that people will come to the area to do that, and I think trails will be a big part of it. But it's also something that you and I have had lots of conversations with, and that's creating a sense of place, right? People want to live in an area where there are activities for their kids, outdoor activities for them to do if they don't have kids, creating that sense of place where people want to live. And I believe, and I think the data shows that outdoor activity like that, trail activity like that, does create a sense of place in those. You can walk along, you know, the lake down there on a trail. That's a desirable community to be in, right?
Commissioner Shoemaker.
That's the ultimate big picture
I
goal.
understand that, but the community has very few trails, and I'm very blessed. Say Fenton Township is one of the fastest growing places around. We don't have trails. We didn't have trails. Linden had a trail, Safe Path to School. They got the grant from. Not much usage of it. And my problem is we're trying to make ourselves competitive compared to other communities. And I'm just wondering, did we go to Oakland County, see how many trails they have? I drive it all the time. Trust me, I get sent back roads because all the expressways are closed for construction. There's trails all over the place. People aren't using them. I was in Rochester. There's trails all over the place. Not in use. How are we more competitive just because we have a trail? And then you're going to have to take care of these trails. So I'm just trying to understand this from a perspective of, have we researched who else has trails? What's the benefit of what they're doing for us? And are they worth our effort and time? I just want my board to think about it, because for me, as someone who's lived somewhere, we don't have sidewalks over Fenton Township, but guess what? It's still a very popular place to move. There's big developments going in, and guess what? They're filling up fast. Not because their sidewalks are all over the place or trails. One, I believe, guess what? Proximity to jobs. That's another reason Graham Lake Township does well. I believe Atlas could grow even more, because guess what? The jobs are to the south of us. We need to make sure we bring jobs. But I also believe, guess what? Public safety and an investment in their property value. You know, I was telling Mr. Freeman this the other day. My mother bought a house when we sold our house when I was a young man in 1992 off Beecher Road, and those condos over there near the water treatment plant. She paid $130-some thousand for this. 20-some years later, when she sold it for less than $50,000, and she had to put a new kitchen in it, new countertops, and that's what she got for it. That's not a good practice. People aren't going to move to a community where, because your house is your major investment. So like I said, I just don't see where these trails are at. And in the sake of time, Mr. Chair, I'll skip past that. So I would like to talk further on it. As far as housing, Derek, if I may continue, Mr. Chair. As far as housing, I've got two concerns, and I brought this up to a lot of you. One, we have a very large population of baby boomers that own multiple properties in this state. Eventually, what's going to happen is, sadly, they're going to pass on. So we are going to see a slight surplus. So we need to start taking that into an evaluation and figure out when those numbers might start to turn in a different favor, because we don't want to build too many and then drive our property values down, so we reduce our taxable value as far as a county. In addition to that, I believe we have quite a few properties. Unfortunately, they just need to be refurbished throughout this county. Dr. Brown has seen the map that's in my office from Land Bank, thank you, from Land Bank. That map continues to grow. Instead of staying in a centralized area, it continues to grow. You know, some of the major costs are and we already have the land, so that's a major cost of building something. We have the property. Sewer hookups are a lot. Site work, that's mostly done. So we've cut a lot of those costs out if we just would go in and refurbish those things. And yes, it may take actually lifting the house off its foundation, but it's still cheaper than what we're doing. And I don't know if we're addressing those things. And I think as a board, we need to, as part of our priorities, if it is housing, we need to be more involved in that. And my opinion is, and I have sat on the land bank before, so I'm going to make this statement because people say, well, you don't know. I haven't. We are not doing enough. We've been more concerned with tearing down than building communities. So that's kind of my concerns when it comes to those projects. I appreciate it. I hope this board would think about those things, because there is opportunity costs given up when we look at these things and they aren't effective. We could be focusing our energies in other areas. So please think about them. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to my board for listening.
Welcome. Mr. Cousineau.
There should be more effort put into rehabilitating a lot of the homes that are out there, rather than building brand new for all the exact reasons Shoemaker stated. I just see so many homes, nothing is being put into them, and eventually they're at 10 years they're down to nothing, and they're a tear down. I think we're missing the boat on a lot of that. And I got to be in agreement with Mr. Shoemaker on the trails. I like the idea of trails to use. However, Clio is out there. They started their trail system out there 30 years ago or whatever. That's always been a big thing. This is, that'll help drive people here. We've seen absolutely zero growth in the residential field in the northern end of the county. Them trails have not made any difference. Do people use them? Yeah. But I don't see them as an economic you know, I use trails out at Mott Lake, not too far from me. Yeah, they're nice, but that's not why I live here.
Commissioner Lloyd.
Who has talked about and intended to talk about that. I think we need to do the basic stuff well. I think we need to. I think we need to focus on doing the basic stuff well. Because if we don't get the basic stuff right and do it well, some of these other pieces are not going to matter as much. I mean, you know, you talk about crime, you talk about housing, you talk about roads, you talk about recreation. I mean, you know, beyond the trails is what I'm saying. You know, you talk about parking at this building. I mean, I'm saying the basic things. You talk about the court. You know, talk about the jail. You know, and other spaces where we know that there are resources that we're going to have to identify or raise to be able to tackle some of the basic things. I think we need to do those things well and prioritize those as a part of our priorities, even the more. Flip of that, I also understand that there are various funding sources for different things. You know, state may have, you know, things that they put in the budget for supporting different things. So like one good example is what's happened down here on the riverfront, for instance. There are funding that's allocated for those kinds of things. I understand that, but to the extent of us, you know, going beyond those sources and trying to come up with resources to support some of these other things, I'm not inclined until we, you know, improve even the more some of the basic things that we need to address. So I just wanted to say that I'm not excited about, although our team is doing a phenomenal job and their community partners that may be passionate, you know, I you know, proud of that and appreciate that, but I'm not really excited about, and when I hear from my constituents, they're not talking about a lot of this stuff. And if it's trails or if it's some of these other things, it's such a small number. It's the basic stuff that folks are concerned about that I think is going to set us apart. And then lastly, as an add-on to that point, like we talked about the road in Mundy Township, which I support, you know, because, you know, all the reasons that has been stated. Even when it comes to businesses relocating, we can rehire this individual at some point who's going to be our growth officer. You know, when businesses are talking about coming in, companies, I'm talking to companies across the country, vocationally, right? And when we're talking about investing in communities or investing in properties, or we're talking about locations closing, you know, they talk about the basic stuff, not to mention, you know, their desire to make more money else, but I think the point is made. I'm more concerned about the basic.
We have additional discussion on this first topic, community and economic growth, generally, or any of the detail areas. Dr. Brown.
Mr. Chair, I suppose I should weigh in since I'm the chairperson for community and economic growth. And I'll try to speak clearly into the microphone so that Commissioner Flewelling and others can hear me. I don't know much about the trails. I understand the concerns from the commissioner to my left, the commissioner to my right. I was not one of the individuals that did the trip to Bentonville, so I don't know how the trails down there were able to galvanize, you know, the community and translate to economic growth. So I suppose I need to know more about it before making a determination. I do agree with Commissioner Lloyd in that we do need to get the basics right. A lot of the basics are underneath the auspices of local townships and local villages. And so to that extent, I think that hiring our growth officer will be a major step in the right direction to helping to cultivate those 33 municipalities to try to get them help them to get in the right direction with their planning. The other thing I think we need to get in terms of basics, getting the basics right, is broadband. To me, nothing is more essential than broadband, access to broadband, affordability for broadband. It can help in so many ways. And so I see that that's a green spot right now on this chart. It pleases me, and I'm very proud of the work that's been done by Mike DeWisha and Derek Jones and the advisory board for broadband, because we have come a long way over the last 2 years. I'm hoping that that green turns to a darker green in the next couple of months, because we are ready to move forward on this basic right of broadband access. I want to speak to the housing piece. That's in yellow right now. And I know that Mr. Bradshaw has spoken to the challenges that we've been facing with housing. I want people to know and understand that the land bank is changing directions right now. And we are in the midst of identifying new leadership for the land bank, because as has been stated as earlier, we do need to do more rehab and less demolition. That's one of the basics. And so we are, that yellow is on the verge of turning green with housing. I want to make sure that we don't stall that progress, though. Now that we have made this change with the land bank, we have to put our foot on the pedal and move quickly with getting the parties together, because the money is out there. That is not an issue. We have to get a strategy in place, which has been the frustrating part for me. There has been no strategy. And I want to speak to one of the things on this list, the Genesee Valley Mall, because that's a red spot on this chart. Nothing has been done. And I had a conversation with a resident in Flint Township the other day, and I asked her, what do you think should be done with Genesee Valley Mall? Because clearly the interlocal agreement that was proposed was not embraced. She said to me that people need a place where families can go. And people need a place where families can go and feel safe. She just shared some of the basics that communities need and residents need in order to be able to thrive in a community. And so I had another conversation with the economic development chair in Flint Township, and he told me that he was in the midst of convening a group of developers to come to the table and try to decide what could happen with Genesee Valley Mall. The stalemate, though, is that the developer wants $25 million for the property, and we know that's unrealistic when we know the assessed value is much, much less than that. So we have to figure out how we can partner with communities like Flint Township to help them overcome their challenges, because this county has many challenges. But, you know, I got a communication from Jared recently, and he talked about opportunities, because I think we have more opportunities than we do challenges. And so the key is to capitalize on those opportunities. And when we don't capitalize on opportunities, that's when we become stagnant. That's why we are stagnant. And we're just, it's the status quo. The Advanced Manufacturing District, you know, I've had lots of conversations about that recently too, you know, with people embracing the status quo and not really wanting to they want to bring jobs to the area, but it's not in my backyard kind of thing. So many things the NIMBYism blocks so many opportunities. And we have to figure out a way to communicate with our communities better so that we don't run into those roadblocks. And we have to do it earlier. We have to do it in a more robust way. And we have to be very, very thorough. Accommodations tax, that's another red area that I see on here. We were approached by the Mott Foundation to, well, no, I'm thinking about another tax. Forget that one. The yeah. I'm just thinking, there are lots of, yeah, let me shift gears.
You're thinking property transfer
I'm thinking
tax.
property tax, yeah.
Ridgeway did.
So,
talk with that.
accommodations tax, though, we'd have to do work on that. But I am excited about the prospect of the sports commission, because I do think that there's large agreement at the table that the sports commission can be a huge element to our economic growth. And so I look forward to seeing action taken on that soon. I'll end it with that.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Before we move on to the next category, does anyone have anything they want to add? Commissioner Cousineau, then Commissioner Shoemaker.
Something that Dr. Brown just said, people want a safe place. And that's an issue I'm going to be bringing up at the next next workshop, because we're dealing with public safety. People don't feel safe in this community. People don't want to move to this community because of the high crime rate. That's one of the basics that we need to take care of. And I'll leave it at that, because I'll have more to say next week.
All right, Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not to belittle it, but if Dr. Brown could just send me an email with what the changes were for the land bank, I'd appreciate that, because I'd like to know what their plan of action is moving forward. Because I've heard this lip service before that they're going to change things. I've been down here almost 8 years, and I see status quo. So, and I think that's a major resource. So, not to belittle it and go on, so we'll go from there. And then just one thing I wanted to bring up as far as Ron had mentioned. The key thing, though, is we got to go, this basic thing we all agree upon, we got to do it well. Eventually, you can only have so many balls in your arm, and I guess eventually what happens, you start dropping them, because you can't carry them all. Because there's only so much you can do. There's only so much time. There's only so many resources, and our staff is the same way. What built Genesee County, if you think about it, it was jobs and opportunity. The rest will fix itself if we can figure out a way to make sure we create an area for people to come and have jobs and the opportunity to develop business. Unfortunately, our state is one of the last in economic opportunity. It's one of the last as far as friendly state as far as it goes for business climate. I think we're in the 45th place or something like that right now. So it's tough. We've got to overcome that. It's not all our fault. It's not all the county's fault. But there are other communities. You go down to Macomb County, you sit there and you go, holy cow, they got 8 lanes. You know, it's going crazy. So there is opportunity. So I appreciate it. Like I said, I just think we really talk about it right here, and we're all talking about focus on what we should do well, the basics, but if we need to figure out what that means and make it happen.
Mr. Freeman, would you take us into the next section?
Yeah, our CFO, Crystal Simpson, is here to wow us with some magical numbers.
By the way, Commissioner Flewelling says the volume is much better. So, FYI.
I'm sorry. Before she begins, as she gets set up there, I appreciate how Dr. Brown walked through, hey, this is green and this is yellow and that kind of thing. The reds, are we going to talk about tonight what it takes to move those into yellow and green, or is that a different discussion? Or
I'm not certain, because we're behind. And so in theory, we would end at 7:30. But, I mean, this board can stay longer.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we.
Yeah, you just wanted to know what the plan was.
How do we?
Mr. Freeman, you want to share what the overall plan?
I think that part of tonight was to kind of get a 50,000-foot view of where we are, and then if you guys want to drill down on something specific under that, then we would probably have a workshop to then drill into something very specific. I think sometimes it's hard for the board to know what to focus on in any given priority session, or even for staff to know what to focus on in any given priority session, if you don't kind of see the big picture of everything. That was the goal tonight, big picture, and then where do you want to see further focus in?
I think this is related. Thank you, Josh. One of the things that Gary and I have been talking about related to these is attaching each one of these specifics. These were adopted by us, so it's what we put forward. But each of these could be placed under a committee potentially and just stays under unfinished business or some category where you can see, we can see every committee meeting, or maybe it's the regular meeting where they sit. And anyone can then say, well, what's the status on X? Or have we had any movement on Genesee Valley? So it's always in front of us as opposed to having, a check-in every 8 or 9 months or so. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's very, very, very helpful. Because there's two, and I know we got to move. There's two particular, like under mental health, we don't have to have a discussion about it, but I see it says, there's been no direction given on expectations for the subjective. So how do we get you that expectation? And then the other one that I saw had to do with, that's mental health. It was up higher. The accommodations tax. I don't know what the status of that discussion is. Well, it says the BOC approved a 2-year status quo agreement. So we agreed not to do anything with it? 2 years?
Just a status quo.
Okay,
You gave them a.
Okay, got it. And then the exploration of large-scale recreation, no action has been taken on this. Okay, got it.
If I may, real quick on that one, Dr. Brown, that would be the result potentially of a sports commission, right?
Correct.
So we sort of put the end result on there, and of course it's red, but as you point out, we have taken steps to make our way there.
Yes.
Is that fair to say?
Yes.
All right. Thank you for mentioning that, because we have struggled with how we keep this in front of the Board of Commissioners. And
So do you want me to put those red ones on the agenda then, or the reds and yellows, or put all of them on there? How do you want anything on there, or do you want to think about it for a minute?
well, I think we can add these to
Any choices?
what we think the parent committee would be, and maybe it's in chart form, and you got the greens together, the reds and the yellows. And
Okay.
if there's movement between meetings, you can adjust the color, and we can keep them on there. We don't have to discuss them every time, but that allows a single commissioner who sees something they want to ask about, so we're not waiting months to have another workshop. Yeah, I think it helps us do our work better. You're welcome. Crystal, you are on.
If it makes you feel any better, you might be able to regain some time, because when Josh told me 15 minutes, I'm like, for these 4 topics, that's 15 minutes is a long time. So unless you have a lot of questions, I think we'll be able to move through this one pretty quickly. One of the items under long-term financial stability is millage funding and usage. This is one of those things, like you mentioned just now, there's been a lot of discussion around a lot of the millages and what you'd like to do with those moving forward. But on all of them, there's not been board action yet of how you'd like to proceed. So, but we did make progress on the senior services millage. You just voted on that proposal at the last meeting on how to move forward with more services there, reduce wait lists, but still maintain a healthy fund balance in that fund. Financial forecasting, we did do a 5-year forecast at the workshop on June 3rd. We did go through a lot of assumptions that we were using, projecting forward that 5 years, as well as pressure points that we discussed as we move forward. The workshop on Monday, I think we'll talk more about some of those pressure points as requests are coming to you to expand staffing and what that will look like on a go-forward basis. We have made a lot of strides in the capital improvement area. I know Ray gives the updates periodically at the board meeting, so I won't belabor a lot of this, but if you look at our completed projects, we've completed about 2.4 million of projects. And as you can see, a lot of that's come out of the capital project fund. So those vacancy sweeps, putting that money into the capital project fund to have those funds set aside, allow us to do some of these projects that aren't too large without, putting a lot of cumbersome requests on the general fund. So 2.4 million, I thought, if you look back from the 7.5 years I've been here, we've really struggled to try to fit capital into the budget. So this has really helped us kind of pick some of those off of our list and move forward. Our projects in process, these are the ones that you have approved to move forward. About almost $10 million worth of requests that you've approved to move forward. The large one being that facade at the jail and circuit court. I know that's one that's been a huge concern for a while. I think we've talked about it since I've been here. So we've been approved to move forward with that. The jail netting is a huge thing. Obviously, it's a safety issue down there, something that you approved that is well underway and hopefully will be done early in the fiscal year 2027. Upcoming projects are listed here as well. I think there's been a lot of discussion around the parking lots, trying to get those in good shape for the staff and visitors to be parking. There's a lot of capital improvements that should be coming for the parks related to some of the roads and parking lots there as well. Demolition of the administration building should be coming, I think, on the September agenda.
Yep.
That's a huge span there of cost, so it will just depend on which particular person who submitted a bid that you'd like to move forward with. And then our quarterly staff vacancy savings, I did total those up. It's just over $1 million that we've transferred just this fiscal year. In our period ending September 30th, I have my staff working on the estimate right now to be able to transfer another amount on the next agenda to put into that capital improvement fund. Right now there's about $2.5 million over there. So again, that's helping us pick aside some of these smaller projects that we don't necessarily need to use the bond money for. We'd like to have those set aside for those larger projects as we move forward. The big piece of this priority, I think, is the legacy costs. I know we talk a lot about that, funding our pension and our OPEB, which, as a reminder, is our other post-employment benefit, which for us is our retiree health care. So I thought it might be helpful for those of you who haven't talked about actuarial valuations to understand how those actuaries come up with those liabilities that we recognize in our statements. So we provide member census data for both pension and OPEB. That includes the age of the person, years of service here at the county, what date we think they'll retire, salary history for pension, and then gender. And then they use that information to try to have a starting point for when they think you're going to leave employment with the county and how long you will be taking the benefit from us here. We also give them financial and asset data. You'll see two different, I know some of you sit on the board and see those valuations. There's two different asset valuations. There's one that's called the market value, and that's what you would be familiar with if you go to your Yahoo Finance and you have an investment. It's the market value there. You know if it's a stock, it's the number of shares you hold times how much they're worth, and that's your market value. They also have the actuarial value of assets. So the actuarial will smooth those fluctuations in the market because you do have, one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year. And you don't want your required contributions going like that because that's not great for you to try to fit into your budget. So they do a 4-year smoothing. So for us, 2022 is not a great market year, and that still was driving up our required contribution. That will fall off in the next valuation, and then the 2026 market value fluctuation will come into play. So if 2026 stays as we've seen, we should see a reduction in our pension contribution next year. And the reason that's important, so the actuarial market value is used when they determine our required contribution. The fair market value is when they're looking at our funding status. How much of our assets have we set aside compared to how much we will owe for those future benefits? Economic assumptions, so they look at the long-term assumed rate of return. We do a lot of work with our investment manager to try to figure out, based on the asset mix that we have, what does that long-term rate of return look like? Because obviously if we have growth in our investments, then we don't have to contribute as much into the plan out of pocket. We also look at inflation, so increases in salaries are factored into the pension, and then healthcare cost trend rates. This has been huge. I know when I was an auditor way back in the day, healthcare costs went up just like inflation. It was like maybe 3%. And then all of a sudden, it was, you see a 20% increase and you're like, wow, what is going on? And I think all of you have seen, even in your own personal health costs, that those are not slowing down. Those costs have continued to increase. So that drives how long the assets can last, based on how long those people need to draw those benefits and how much those costs increase over time. And then other assumptions are demographic. So the rate of your like how fast people are retiring. If you have turnover, if people leave and they're no longer eligible, that gets factored in. And then mortality tables, which it depends on if you're a male or a woman, how long they expect you to live. So for anybody in our plans, the actuary basically has a table that takes that person, calculates when they think you'll leave and retire based on past history, and how long they think you'll live. So there's a point where they drop you off, is when they think you'll fall out of the plan. And then they estimate the liability of how much it will cost for either pension or retiree health care for that set of years, when you retire to when they think you will pass this life. So the actuarial accrued liability, that's when they look at how much we owe for the benefit as it's earned while the employee works. And then again, the unfunded liability is where they take that liability amount less any of the assets that we have set aside to fund those future liabilities. And then our funded status basically is just the difference between those two numbers, how much we owe for benefits and how much we've set aside. If you're overfunded, you have an asset, and if you're underfunded, you have a liability. So here at the county, unfortunately, we're not overfunded, but we are increasing our level of funding, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then lastly, the pension payments. So when the actuary determines how much we need to contribute for pension, that is mandated under Constitution. We don't have a choice to say we're not going to fund that. We have to fund what the actuary says. OPEB, or retiree healthcare, is not the same. The actuary does say we suggest you contribute a set amount, but you're not required by Constitution to fund that. So we have maintained our 2% increase each year, putting an additional amount into that plan. But if we didn't, it's not a constitutionally mandated thing that we have to do every year. And so this just looks at our funding. We just recently had a new valuation for our pension plan as of 12/31/25, and we did increase our level of funding from 63.1% to 66.12%. As you can see, that 2022 number, that funding, you can see it dropped down from 2021. Again, that was the bad market year that was taken into play there, but we did rebound back from that in the next few years. We did get about just over 11% rate of return in our pension plan, so that was a really great year for 2025. So the assets of the entire pension plan went up about $28.6 million, and for the county's portion of that, just under $8 million. So that did help increase that level of funded ratio. And then on the OPEB side, I know when we just talked about 66%, 4.5 doesn't look very impressive. But if you look at the numbers in the third column, we've been doing a good job of increasing our funding within that OPEB plan. So just this last year, 9/30/25, we put an additional $1.6 million in assets in that trust. The year before, $1.8 million, and the year before that, $2 million. So we really are making good strides compared to where we used to be historically, and putting funds in there that can make better rates of return than we could do just out of general fund. That's all that I prepared to cover. I don't know if you have any questions or if you want me to go back to any of the slides.
Did you study accounting by any chance? In your...
Yes. Yes, I did.
You are an impressive person.
Thanks.
So thank you for presenting that and for your work for us. I will open it up to the floor for folks who want to comment, question. Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Crystal, I didn't catch it on the slide as far as we were talking about capital improvement projects and the admin building, how we were funding that. It's tough to see from back here.
We can back the slides up.
The demolition of the admin building?
Yeah.
We have some assigned fund balance for capital project within general fund. Depending on how much it is, it may come from there, or it may be a combination of that and the capital project fund where we've been putting those vacancy savings. It just depends on what level of funding we need, depending on what bidder you select.
Cheapest, if I remember, was, and I think I can see it, but it's 3.9. So 4 roughly, just.
We're going to be between 4 and 5 million, depending on, I think they got their final recommendations in the review of the proposals and making sure that everybody responded, appropriately and is a responsive bidder. My guess is it's going to be right around 5 million.
If I may, Mr. When you talk assigned fund balance, How many other items in that are, is it just for that building then? We've assigned funds?
We've assigned for capital projects of, I think it's just over $9 million in general fund.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Certainly. Commissioner Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does that estimate include backfilling?
Yep, we put out to bid a scope of work, and that's that entire scope of work.
I also think we should have a future conversation, not now, about the assignment of the fund balance. I mean, you know, we may wanna-
Additional comments or questions for Crystal? And this section is long-term financial stability.
Mr. Chair, if I could just jump in there real
course.
quick. In my update last week, I did talk about millage funding. We had talked about the health services millage. There was lots of discussion about that before it was put on the ballot. And you guys had talked about during some of that discussion about creating a task force or a work group that would review how we deliver those services moving forward. That's kind of stalled, hasn't moved. I think putting this on the agenda will keep that kind of in front of you guys so that we can talk about creating a group that can review that and make some recommendations to the
Agreed. That was one of the elements. There were a number, but that was certainly one of them. We'll want to make sure Commissioner Winfrey's part of that conversation, given he chairs that committee. Mr. Lloyd?
Wondering if, as it relates to all of the villages, how we talked about tracking them and seeing how things can be improved and so on and so forth. I wonder, should that be a part of our overall, part of our priorities?
I would say, from my perspective, we're getting better at it, but what happens is when the millage is coming to expire or about to expire, or there's either us or a group that has it and they bring it before us, we've never discussed it before in any detail. So at that point, we have a million questions and we want to know, has it been effective, and is the rate the right rate? And so I think that's sort of what you're saying, that we need to plan ahead. So I assume there's a pretty easy calendar of when the millages are expiring. And to me, within no less than 6 months from the expiration, or when it would come to us, I guess, maybe for a vote to put on the ballot, we should have some in-depth discussions or start that. Is that what you were?
Yes, for the most part. I was looking at our priority buckets, and I don't even know where it would fit here, even if we did. But
I mean, it probably could fit under this millage funding and usage, essentially. Maybe modifying that to say that, to build in a schedule where this board will actively, closely look at millage that will come before us for adding to the ballot once again.
I think it should be red. If we added to it, that box would need to be red.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I can't, I'm just mentioning it. I think we should keep that in front of us.
Right. Well, we also had discussion related to this, and maybe this is why it was on here, is the millage rates, right? And how we get to establish those or set them every year. And I know Commissioner Cousineau and others have mentioned that, sometimes we have large fund balances, and we want to make sure that we're spending that appropriately and that it's helping people. And, if the millage is taxing too much, maybe we don't levy the full amount. That was part of our discussion too, as I recall. Commissioner?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. We need to be talking, instead of just automatically re-levying. We need to have that discussion ahead, because there's times we don't really need to levy that money.
Yeah. Commissioner Lloyd, and then Commissioner Getzinger.
Well, yeah, it should be, somebody said something about 6 months ahead of time. Yeah, it should come up so that we give it adequate time to discuss it. And I think 6 months would be adequate.
Commissioner Getzinger.
Yeah, and then in regards to the health millage that just passed, didn't we change where the money's coming to us? And we probably need
Arts.
to start. Was it the arts?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, arts and culture.
We probably need to start putting in place a group or however we're going to start managing that.
That's a good point.
2 years out.
Right, it
Yep.
is. So they're under the last 2 years of the first 10-year millage, and so we do have some time to think about it, but it will be a different process, right? Do I have other hands? Commissioner Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Crystal, can you describe our investment strategy overall as a county? For example, are we moderate? Are we conservative? Or does it depend on the fund? Does it depend on the area? What's our strategy?
So the investing for the general county investments is handled by the treasurer's office, so that might be a better question for them. I know we talk about cash flow and what's needed and how long they could invest it, and the longer they can invest it, usually the better the return. And I think there's been some communication about the opioid dollars because we know we're not spending one of those anytime soon. But the investment strategy for both the pension and OPEB, if that's what you're looking at here, those are handled by the boards that are created for those. We have an investment policy that has percentages of what we want to invest in. So like for the pension plan, we have, I'm not sure how much percentage, but we allocate it and spread it across stocks and bonds. We do fixed income, real estate investments, which are much longer in nature, but usually have a higher return, but also a higher risk. So we definitely strategize to diversify that portfolio to try to generate a good return. VEBA doesn't have the Retiree Healthcare Trust doesn't have as many assets, but we do try to keep that tied up in at least a 4% rate of return investment at all times, and sometimes we can go longer if we don't need to pull from it for payments for the healthcare.
What was it?
It's pretty well.
So it's a mix of moderate, conservative, aggressive.
I can provide a copy of that policy if that interests you.
Yeah, I like to see it. Thank you.
All right, do we have additional? Commissioner Lloyd.
Through you, Mr. Chair, relative to our investment policies, who monitors the compliance?
Investment policies? Oh, the treasurer's office handles investing.
I didn't realize until you just said
For the general county, for the pension plan, that has an investment manager that provides monthly reports to make sure we're in compliance with that investment policy. And the same for the VEBA plan, we have an investment manager that does that monthly.
Can we make a request for the treasurer to come give us a report or an update, or however you want to put it, relative to the county's investment strategy?
Additional questions, comments on this category? All right, thank you, Crystal. You are appreciated. Derek, I meant to say you are appreciated too. I don't know if I said that. Let me just
After the
add.
fact.
Let me just add this. I was at the Swartz Creek Senior Center last Friday, and I always do lunch and learns with them every quarter, and they come for the pizza, not for me, but. The learn part of last Friday was two of Derek's staffers, Gwyneth Kosselman and Dan Moulton, and they came after I did my spiel and talked to the seniors about our master plan that we adopted and some of the things they've been working on. And Gwen was actually the person out of Derek's office that helped Swartz Creek spend that $100,000 from ARPA on a van. So she got nearly a standing ovation when she mentioned that she had done that. But anyway, my point is that I think there are a lot of staff in this county that are excited about their work, and clearly those two young people are excited. So just wanted to mention that. The next category is healthy, livable, and safe communities. Mr. Freeman, you want to set this one up?
Yeah, sure. So first item, our first focus area under the HLS is the improve EMS access and quality. You guys know that you funded a study through the Greater Flint Health Coalition to look at or make some recommendations around the EMS system. I believe Commissioner Flewelling has kind of led that effort in terms of implementation, and you emailed out, and you do have a copy in front of you, his summary of the work that he's been doing and working with that group to get, work towards a better EMS system for Genesee County and our residents. One of the other major areas.
Josh, can I just mention something on that? Everyone should have a copy in front of them. If anyone, I mean, I'm assuming we could add another commissioner to this sort of informal group. We didn't establish this group, but a group was recommended that was a little bit larger and maybe more official. But we can certainly ask through Commissioner Flewelling if anyone else has interest in this topic. I know Commissioner Cousineau, you were sort of part of the original leadership.
I was surprised that I wasn't included.
Yeah, this wasn't established by the Board of Commissioners. I think this sounds like this came together sort of organically. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just mention, please read this, and if you have questions about it, you can check in with Commissioner Flewelling. Josh.
Yep. One of the other major areas, we talked a little bit about mental health earlier, and that we really haven't done a deep dive or addressed any of those issues. I know that's something that Commissioner Shoemaker has talked about, but mental health has typically been focus of GHS in this county, and then also the county role in public safety, which the way counties are set up, we elect a sheriff in this town who's accountable to the voters, and certainly this board has funding discretion that can kind of push, but the sheriff is the elected public safety person here. I thought we could focus maybe a little bit about the work that our health department is doing around supporting our public health services in Genesee County. One of the core functions of county government is the health department, and we've got a pretty darn good one here at Genesee County. Brad Snyder, who I always want to call Brad Huff for some reason, I don't know why. Brad Snyder is our deputy health officer, and he's here to give us a quick update.
Good evening, commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. Speak a little bit about the great work that our health department pertaining to the priority area, healthy, livable, and safe. Specifically within that priority area, communicating resources and services to residents, and also promoting public health to create safer and healthier residents. First, talk a little bit about health communications. So last year we identified as a health department that we had an opportunity for improvement in our health communications. So we came for you as a board requesting a new position within our administrative area as a public health coordinator who would help improve our health communications as a health department. This was something our listening sessions, our community listening sessions, development. The community wanted to hear from us more, to be able to see us more, and to be able to have trusted information available from us on a regular basis. So we've devoted a lot of time and energy to this. I'm going to speak a little bit about our social media today. When it comes to health communications, social media is a tool in the toolbox.
Can you speak into the mic a little more?
I apologize. Yes.
That's okay.
Yes, it's a tool in the toolbox. So we know that there's a lot of other things that in health communications, but we noticed this was an area that needed improvement on. So we've been working really hard on that. Right up here, we do our coordinator puts together a monthly Facebook document that is shared with our health educators and all of our staff that do community engagement for all their programs. And so here's a little snippet of the July performance where we talk about how many Facebook followers we have, some highlights of where we got the most attention with our post. As you can imagine, in July, cyclosporiasis was a huge hit on our social media pages and got a lot of views. Over on the right is an example of one of those social media posts. This was at the beginning of the outbreak, July 8th, where we put a post out providing information about where residents could see the current This generated over 100,000 views, way more than what we normally see. So we were happy to see that that information is being taken in and used by the residents. Also wanted to point it out here on the bottom is a post that we did to announce that we have an Instagram page finally. So after many years of no Instagram, we are on Instagram now. Everyone to follow us. It allows us to open up additional demographics that aren't seen in our Facebook demographics, so we can reach more people.
Brad, do you receive direct messages through either of these, or I'm assuming you receive comments, and do you reply to them?
Yeah. We for both of those. So we receive comments on our post, and we also receive direct messages, and we have staff members that reply to those. A good example of how we engage with the public with comments is actually pertaining to the outbreak. We had questions coming in about, what is being done at the local level. What are you doing to figure out the cause of this outbreak? So that was actually a good opportunity for us to educate the public on what our epidemiologists do at a local health department and across the state. So we created some social media posts to respond to that said, what's the daily life like for epidemiologists at a local health department? That was a good success too. So it allowed us to address health literacy on a scale that we haven't done before, and we're looking forward to do more of that.
Thank you.
Next, I want to talk about some of our outreach efforts tying into health communications. A lot of our health communications is done at an outreach level too. So we're not only doing work within our four walls here, but we're also going out into the community and providing services and also information and resources. So all of our programs have expectations for outreach to various levels. I want to focus on a few of them today. If I went through all of them tonight, we'd be here until midnight, and I don't think we want to do that. So quickly, our immunizations program, which a lot of you are familiar with. Just to recap recent months' outreach efforts in July, there were 4 outreach clinic events where we provided 48 doses of vaccine, and also we provided vaccine records in the field to family members. We also have a couple of experts in our immunizations program who are very, very passionate and champions of HPV vaccine and promotion of it as a cancer prevention method. And so they get invited frequently, state and nationally, to speak on this. We had 2 of those speaking engagements that they were part of in July. In August, we had 13 outreach clinic events where 232 doses of vaccine were provided. We have 3 more scheduled in August, so we expect that number to climb. And then in September and October, we have 33 clinics and events scheduled to date. WIC is another program area that does a lot of outreach throughout the county. In July, there was 5 events that they attended, and this is on top of the normal out-of-clinic operations that they provide. So as well, so these are in addition to that. You can see 5 events in July, and then the different areas to participate with the public in. In August, we've had 8 events so far, and again, you can see that list of where we've been for WIC activities. Then following up for WIC activities, this is an example of upcoming outreach event that our WIC program is helping put on September 17th at the Farmers Market. So this is the Produce Connection event coming up in September. And this event typically brings in over 300 families. So another great opportunity to engage with the public and provide our nutritional services through our WIC program. Next, I know many of you have heard about this, but I thought it'd be appropriate to update on this project, the Sensory Inclusive Clinic project. So this came out of what we called the Creative Solutions Mini Grant, where we offered staff an opportunity to submit projects that they wanted to work on that helped move forward their programs, visions, and missions, but maybe it was something that their funding source couldn't do. This allowed them the flexibility to put in some ideas. And this was one of those 3 ideas that were selected. The purpose of this project is to provide neuro-friendly and sensory-friendly spaces for the GCHD immunization and WIC clients. There's a few pictures here. This is now being implemented with the support of the board office, and also facilities things around and getting them where they need to be. So the project, it positions us as a health department to be proactive rather than reactive. And also another key part of this I want to share is that we've had staff with lived experience, whether it be personally or through family members, that brought really valuable feedback and insight into education. So over here on the right, this is a snapshot of the sensory-friendly area in our WIC breastfeeding. Accomplishments to date for this project. So staff have went through training and in collaboration with Mott Children's Health Center here locally and also Wayne State University. Through Wayne State University, they offer a MPV status certification. So I apologize for the typo there. It's MVP, most valuable provider. And what this program is it designates clinics that are accessible and welcoming to all people, including those with disabilities. So it's a certification stating that our staff have worked through the training and our clinic meets those status. Also, all of our clinic spaces in WIC now have sensory-friendly tools. There's a picture there in the center of a toolkit for sensory-friendly objects that our clients like to touch and play with during the visit to make them feel more comfortable now. And also here is an example of the hallway clinic. So the lights in the hallway, they're now have the cloud covering on them to make it a little bit more through the area. And then finally on this project, through the grant funding, we were able to pay for some professional video of what to expect during a visit. And this is an amazing video that I'm looking forward to sharing with all of you. There's actually a few different ones. Unfortunately, after events this morning, we're going to have to take a few edits out of the end of it because of the changes to the parking structure. But basically this, for our WIC and immunizations program, it walks them through from start to finish when they park until they exit and what that experience is going to look like. And this is going to be able to provide all who enter these programs and receive be able to view what's happening to make their experience a little bit more easier as they come through our doors. And I'm going to end here with updates on Compass, our new mobile health unit. Just to reiterate, the Compass acronym for Community Outreach Mobile Units, providing access, support, and services. This was something that you as a board graciously approved and helped us acquire. And it is now live and it's in the community at various events. This was designed to meet people where they are, right? Not expecting them to come to us situation they are, to be able to have those trusted public health services that we're known for, to be able to come to their community and to events they already attend, places that they already trust. Here's a few pictures of events that we've been to. Recently, the picture on your right is from our health fair earlier this summer. In the middle, that is at the Deps and Dogs event for Back to the Bricks, and then on the left is the Flushing Rally, where we had a huge turnout of people coming through. So additional updates for Compass. To date, we've attended 4 community events. Through those events, we've encountered 780 individuals coming through and talking to us, receiving information about our services and or receiving services through the Compass. A few examples of here of what we provide on the mobile unit to date. We're giving tours. People love to come through and just see the inside and see what it's capable of. Really impressed with what it has to offer. Our COHA program, the COHA, which is the Kindergarten Oral Health Assessment Program, where we partner with Mott Children's Health Center again to provide kindergarten oral health assessments. On board, we provide vaccines and immunization records, environmental health education and information, communicable disease education and information. The same for sexual health, family planning, hearing and vision, WIC and marijuana education. They have all been part of our deployments so far in the community. And in September, we have 5 events planned.
Brad, remind us, and maybe the system isn't set up, but I think Leah was going to be part of it, or in terms of scheduling this and groups in the community or organizations that want to invite you out. Has that been set up yet?
It is. So that's actually on my next slide, an update on that. And you're correct, Leah Johnson, our community health analyst, is involved in the development of that system and deploying it. So right now, that system is not up to date yet, and one of the things we're waiting on to deploy that is to have a driver hired. Because what we don't want to do is have a system up where people can request it and then we're constantly saying no to it because we don't have the ability to do so. But right now, what we're doing, you'll see on our social media website, we have a page dedicated to the compass where we are sharing the locations that we're going to be at in the coming weeks, what particular programs or services we're doing as well. Like I said, the driver has not been hired yet. We've been interviewing since early July. We've had 3 interviews so far. We're still ongoing with that process to hire a part-time driver. But until then, like I said, the request portal is on hold, but we still have information on our website on how to contact us if individuals are interested in having us at event. And that's how we've been fielding requests right now and getting out into the community. That wraps up my time. So,
All right, thank you. Commissioners, you have comments, questions about this category for Brad or others? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Real quick, just how do we determine what communities get the visit from the Compass unit?
Right now, it's just based on requests coming in. So we haven't had the need to decline things that are coming through right now. I believe there was one event where we didn't have a driver available on a weekend. I also want to give a shout out to Ray Facilities. They have been absolutely amazing with helping us move this project forward and getting it out into the community. Deputy Directors for Facilities Bill Chapman has been our interim temporary bus driver, helping us out getting it out into the community at many events and in future events until we get that driver on board. But as of right now, it's just they're coming in, and if we have a driver and staff available, we're going out to those events. But once the portal becomes available, we're going to have a system where it's going to come in, it's going to ask things like, where do you want it? What is the expected audience who will be there? What services are you requesting? And then this portal will then generate the request I'm bringing to our staff. If we have multiple events on the same day, or if we have events in the same time period that we think we may end up doing both, we'll look at that information and look at it and see where the areas of highest need is within the county, and then we'll make that decision off that. So there's not a bias on us as staff deciding where we will be. It'll be a calculation of sorts to where the highest need is.
Please proceed.
I guess my concern is when we're purchasing this thing, it's supposed to go out and help people who can't get to healthcare services. I'm just wondering, hoping we would know more what a community needs than an event planner for, I'm just going to have an example out near Apple Fest. You know, call and say, hey, bring the unit out here with 1,000 people. You know, what's going to be needed? I guess that's what I'm looking more for us, instead of just letting people tell us where they want us to come. We are the drivers of it. We are the experts. We know what's going on in our community. We should, in my opinion, do that to make sure we're providing those services to areas where they're really needed. In addition to that, just a thought, and this is where I talk about the silo piece, where we're very siloed still even within the county, is this might be a good thing to reach out to all of our senior centers and see if they'll promote a day and we could have the unit actually out at the senior center, so we're working together as a group instead of in separate areas. So they could get those residents out, and like I said, in addition to that, maybe we could work with A or other groups to make sure we get those seniors there because they know the health unit's going to be there. So just an idea. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Additional discussion? Commissioner Brown.
So I agree with what Commissioner Shoemaker said. We need to be proactive about really analyzing the data in the county and find out where the greatest needs are, and then taking the mobile unit there. But I also, I noticed you had some more events scheduled for the end of August. Is one of those events the America 250 celebration?
There's only one more event scheduled for August, and that's Genesee County Day
Because it is? Okay.
So
Okay.
yes, the answer to your question is yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, additional discussion on this topic of healthy, livable, and safe communities?
I do have one more. So
Dr. Brown.
mental health is red, and I think that was brought up earlier. And I noticed in Commissioner Flewellen's memo about the EMS group that they met again on July 29th and further discussed the mental health aspect of EMS, and they plan to do an educational marketing campaign. I guess I'd like to hear more about that at an upcoming committee meeting. But I also noticed in the second to the last paragraph, it said the meeting will be held, the next meeting that this ad hoc group will be on August 31st, which is on Monday. I didn't see a time there, though, because I know that we are meeting on Monday as well in the evening. So I don't know if there is a conflict there or not.
I don't know when the meeting is. Usually 911 meets at 2 o'clock. But I don't know.
Okay.
All right.
I don't know what the answer is to mental health, but I don't know what the answer is to the next one either, public safety. I do know that it says we've taken few steps toward that objective for public safety. Project Arrowhead has been one of those few steps that we've taken, but I'm not sure what else is in the pipeline.
All right. Other discussion on this category? Commissioner Shoemaker.
I apologize, Mr. Chair, if I may. I missed the mental health piece. As we've heard the sheriff come down, the sheriff's department discuss the large majority of their inmates are actually suffering from mental health issues. This is a major crisis that plagues our nation, and we refuse to seriously address it because I don't know if we don't even know what the answer is to fixing it. But it's my opinion that we have not spent enough time and effort on it. To Mr. Freeman's point, we do elect a sheriff. We do pay a millage to GHS. Once again, I believe we should be the drivers of these things, pushing people even when they do collect a millage, or pushing people even when they are co-electeds to make sure we're trying to meet people where they are. Because a lot of the reasons people don't feel safe is because, guess what, if you're at an establishment and you're dealing with someone who's having a mental health issue or they have mental issues, guess what, if they're regularly there, you're not frequently going to go. And that's some of the problems we've seen and we have. The key is, Dr. Brown said, I don't know how to fix it, we don't spend enough time on it. As the nation or as the county, this is a major crisis in our community. It's been for 35 years, maybe more, and we don't deal with it. We just move on and we move on, and we talk about community health, but this is a major issue. My dad was telling me a story. He was driving down here just to come to downtown for, I can't remember what event. Saw this lady getting assaulted out in front of the sheriff's department by another gentleman. Now, if you see my dad, he thinks he's going to help and stop this. Turns around in his old Suburban, and he gets out, and come to find out it was over a cell phone. They'd been sleeping in the sheriff's department overnight because it was cold, and it came to be a fight. But as he said, you could tell it wasn't the fact that either one of them were all right in their right faculties. And that's a lot with our homeless population and everything else. And I would like to see us take and actually spend some resources on researching this and finding out how communities who have healthier outcomes with mental health do we are. Now, obviously, sunshine we can't produce. And that's one of the factors. But what we can do is provide an environment for more help. And we need to reach out to GHS. Next month is Suicide Awareness Month. And every year it's a big deal to me. As I've told you, I lost someone very close to me to suicide. I look back after reading, the signs are all there. But we should be increasing awareness. There's a lot of things we could do. So I'd like to see us dump some resources into this. And I don't know if there's more grants available through the health department or whatever, but let's take this seriously because it could be an economic driver. The reason people don't see Flint and Genesee County in a positive light, because guess what? Maybe if we could, I really would like this board to add this as a main agenda item we discuss and come up with plans, or we put someone in the health department in charge of actually trying to work with GHS. And obviously we got to involve Charles because it is his committee, but I'll be very frank to any of you that are committee chairs, though, we all get busy. And sometimes you got to go around things because things have to get done. And this is, I guarantee we all could sit there and say, in this last week we've run into somebody you could obviously tell has had some mental health issues. I'm not just talking here in Genesee County. It could use some help. You know, and maybe it's just to the point of bringing awareness of how to help people. We show our residents how to do that. I don't mean to drag it on. I'm just really passionate about it because I see it every day. We all live it. So if we can make this more of a priority this year,
Commissioner Cousineau.
We have, I think, 2 people that sit on GHS, don't we? Who are those representatives?
Commissioner Winfrey.
James is on every other one but that
You
one.
should be
Must
a
be
subject.
Commissioner Winfrey.
Well, what I'm leading up to is maybe there should be some communication with our own members that are on that GHS. You know, at one time I sat on it, and it is a very large organization. Just to sit on it, I don't know how many different committees Charles is on, but it's a whole nother board as big as what this one is. And it's extremely complicated. We have, in the past, I've been involved with, talk about the Sheriff's Department and mental health. I don't know if they still do it or not, but we had everybody certified, all the different deputies certified in how to de-escalate. And we spent a lot of time trying to deviate people from being thrown in the jail just because they have a mental health issue. And with the with the millage now, they have a certain number of beds that they can deviate the EMS responses to, but that's something that is still in the process of being designed, and they need certain certifications from the state. But that's close to happening, so that, you know, it keeps some of the people out of the jail that needs, you know, treatment, et cetera. But there always can be more done, always more. It's a never-ending thing, so it's something we should work on.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just really quickly about mental health. I've raised this before about the lack of access of support for the young people in our community. We talked about in this earlier, one of the earlier buckets, about public safety. All of us, most all of us, if not all of us, are aware of some of the public safety challenges. Commissioner Cousineau said it best tonight when he said, you know, people don't feel safe in our community. And so when we think about the crimes that involve young people under the age of 25 particularly, there's a lot of mental health and challenges there as well. So I know we talked about the other day about studies and there being some apathy as it relates to studies, and I'm one that is there as well, depending on the subject matter. But what I have not heard is a lot of focus on mental health support for our young people, and that is not just this year or in our term. I haven't heard much discussion about it in the last 12 years or more. Just been a discussion about there's a growing challenge. Even when my time on the Hurley board, we talked about the lack of beds and and so on and so forth, but it was never a solution. So crime, you know, just youth in general, I think that's an area where either GHS or the Health Coalition or whether it's U of M, they've been great partners in studies, or others. I think that's an area that I think it makes sense for there to be some research as to what can be done to help improve access and to increase capacity in community for support for our young people there as well. And then the resource, the dollars to put to it. There has to be, I assume, dollars out there, whether it's federal government or the state, for mental health as it relates to youth. And maybe we can be a trailblazer, even in our state in terms of counties, about really, because that's a basic thing, I believe, supporting our young people. Maybe we can even be a trailblazer in that regard in really addressing this area in community, because kids don't stay kids, and teenagers don't remain teenagers. They become adults with mental health challenges unaddressed. Thank you.
Additional comments on this topic? I'll mention something quick, and I know Commissioner Flewelling knows about it. I've been approached with the concept, and I think maybe Commissioner Getzinger either knows about it or is about to know about it. So we have a meeting, is it next week, Josh, with Jim Ananick? So Jim Ananick, the head of the Health Coalition, you mentioned that organization, has been talking with providers who provide services, some of which are mental health related, and trying to address the homelessness problem or challenge that we have here in the proximity of this building in downtown Flint. And he has some interest in approaching the county, I think, or that group does, that he's working with the study group on it, possibly about purchasing one of our buildings, and that is underutilized, as I understand it. But we're going to do a walkthrough next Wednesday, I think it is, with Commissioner Flewelling as Public Works Chair, Gary as Vice Chair, and me, with Jim, and perhaps, well, with you and Ray, I guess. And he's got a concept, he's got a white paper on it, essentially, which details how it would work and who'd be involved and what the goals are. Obviously, that would have to end up coming here to this full commission. But given that we've got, red down for mental health and public safety, it occurs to me that that's one example of an idea, anyway, that is being shared with us and will eventually, I think, come before all of you for thought and consideration and questions. All right, we are past 7:30. Do we wish to continue to get through our fourth focus area? What's your pleasure? It is.
I think
inclusive.
Jared will be relatively quick on what he's
Okay.
presenting. I want to, I do want to apologize to Brad. The chairman doesn't think you're at the
You're
same
exceptional, Brad. So I want you to know that we've nominated you for an award, and I'm not even kidding, and it was a secret, but I won't tell you what the award is. We're hoping you get it. I'm not kidding.
Point out that Crystal took more than 15 minutes. As she promised.
Well, it's always great when the speaker says, "I will not take up all the time," then they take double the time.
That's right. Well, I feel added pressure because it's steak night.
That's right. We have until
8:55.
But Jared, all this is green, so you've got lots of.
I got the most green here. That's
You
great.
do.
I appreciate
So one of the things that came up even last night, I believe Commissioner Lloyd brought it up, is how are we communicating what's happening at the county and the services we're offering and the good work we're doing and engaging with our residents countywide. So I thought it'd be a good idea around this issue, around this particular issue, for Jared to come up and kind of provide an update and some information about the work that he's doing which is adequate, to get our message out to the public and our residents on behalf of the board. Jared, it's all yours. Don't disappoint us.
Thank you, thank you. You actually hear some themes in my presentation, my very short presentation that you heard just a minute ago. Here we go. We're going to talk about the inclusive collaborative culture priority through communications. So what we're trying to do and what we've been doing over the last year is we're trying to create a more inclusive collaborative culture by making information more accessible, breaking down communication silos, and connecting more people with the work of Genesee County. So kind of akin to what Commissioner Lloyd was talking about earlier. So, and actually Brad as well, we're trying to meet people where they are instead of expecting them to find us. And so in order to do that, we've been building out multiple channels. We want to people with earned media through newspapers. We need to get people through social media who maybe don't use Facebook but use Instagram, kind of like what Brad was talking about with Instagram and our health department. We got to find out where they're getting the information and what kind of information they want to consume in the most convenient form. So I mentioned social media. We utilize social media to promote our programs, our services, events, job opportunities. And we utilize different platforms to reach specific audiences. So for instance, some younger folks like Instagram. Right? Our Facebook audience is a little bit more seasoned and overwhelmingly female. So we're trying to get information in front of people in as many ways as possible. And fortunately, social media is one way that we can do it very inexpensively. Just for fun, I threw out some Facebook metrics. Now, I could do this 100 different ways. This is just one page. So this is our main Genesee County Facebook page. This gives you the age distribution of who's getting our content, consuming our content, area distribution, where they live. And this is the most interesting thing to me. Is in the red box it says 3 out of 4 content views come from people who do not follow us. So that means that our communications are reaching residents far beyond just the people who subscribe to our page. So when I read that initially, I'm like, they might see that as a negative, but it's actually a positive because we're getting a lot of coverage in a lot of areas beyond just the people that subscribe.
People are seeking us out.
Yes, they're seeking us out, or the information is engaging enough. And then views are up, which is good, engagement's up, and the net follows are up quite a bit, and the reason for that is because we very intentionally ran a campaign to try to raise that subscriber count. More metrics. Brad's already talked about the Instagram. Brand new page. They do a great job with PSAs, which is super important. They've been doing a great job with Instagram since they started it. Belabor that point. This animal care, I got to tell you, people in Genesee County love Genesee County animal care. The engagement that they get on their socials is truly incredible. And when you look at, this is just in the last 3 months, right? 83,000 total shares, total engagement at nearly 1 million. I mean, it's just incredible. And it's not just that people love animals, but we have an unbelievable social media coordinator there named Hannah, who's just a rock star. So I tend to think of the website of any organization as the storefront. Right? When you used to go downtown, when it was Montgomery Wards, they'd want to put out their best stuff, right? So people would be engaged with it and maybe walk in, right? It needs to be inviting, it needs to be inclusive. So this is our digital storefront. We got to answer these questions. Are we credible? Are we accessible? Are we inclusive? Because this is often the first place people look when they want information about Genesee County. It may not be walking through our front door. It may be checking out our digital storefront. So in the past, I guess it's been 6 weeks now, we've started a website redesign because we have some blind spots on the website, some areas for improvement, aesthetics, but also areas where we friendly navigation, with access to services and information, and of course, improve the look of it. So it's not done yet, but I can give you kind of a sneak peek of what it will look like. So what we decided we needed to do was we needed to make it user-centric, not just a replication of what the organization looks like. What departments do we have? Who are our commissioners? That sort of thing. We needed to make it user-friendly so that we could anticipate why people are coming to the website and give them the things that they want right from the jump. So we've made it easier with quick links, WordPress integration, that still hasn't happened. Social media integration, intuitive navigation, and then our Jenny-powered searches, which is actually live now, but we're still tweaking it. That Jenny-powered search is basically your ability to go on the website and sort of communicate with the chatbot, which we give all the information. I think I mentioned this in the email. we give that chat bot all the information. Can't go out and get it elsewhere from dubious sources. If the information is wrong, it's definitely our fault. So we're working on getting it to take information from not just what's on the website, but also other areas that we supply directly. So that's coming soon. So direct resident communication is something that we do all the time. And the way that we do that is through a CRM, which is a constituent relations management system called IndyGov, and it has about 100,000 email addresses. We use this system regularly for event information, for marketing of county programs, for PSAs, like I mentioned earlier, and for employment opportunities. So that's a great way to communicate to people that, hey, we have an opening on the Metropolitan Planning Commission. We want you to apply. And if we can get it out to 50,000 people, and if 20% of those 50,000 open it, and then maybe 1% of the people actually click through, you're going to get a lot of applicants. So it's a really powerful tool that we have.
Can you talk a little bit more on how you can narrow down? So, like, if we got a program in veterans that is for people who are over 40, we can actually go in and narrow that down to that group of folks.
Yeah, I've done outreach that are specific to veterans. I've done outreach that are specific to people of a certain household income. I've done it to only speakers. So there's 100 different ways that you can filter down
By commission districts. So
do it by commission districts. I've done that many times as well. So it's a really, really powerful tool. It needs to be used in the manner that always anticipating the kind of information you want and not overusing it. Because the worst case scenario is that people decide they don't want your information and they unsubscribe. So that's why it's important to tailor information to different groups, because if I'm a veteran, I'm very much going to be interested in what
Jared, how do people subscribe to this?
So they can subscribe by direct input to me, or there are these quarterly updates that the actual CRM does that adds new email addresses. And then also, I can get email addresses or, for example, direct input of email addresses in an Excel file like we would get from.
One of the reasons I'm asking is I don't know that I get messages through IndyGov.
You may not be in their system.
So would you add all of us, every 9 commissioners, so we can see what the county's doing? Thank you.
They actually supply the database, but we can add. That's IndyGov. Commissioner Connections is something we've been doing for a while, but the change with Commissioner Connections is in more recent times we've been doing piecemeal things, onesie-twosies, about very specific issues or happenings or events. We'll still do that stuff, but this is going to be a new monthly feature where we'll use IndyGov to send out an email campaign that actually aggregates a lot of the information that we put out in the last month, just so we can get people who may not, to Commissioner Lloyd's point, may not watch ABC 12 or may not visit the website. We're just trying to cover all of our bases.
Jared, would you with this slide, you made me think of with the title, what you do for me every time I go to a senior center. I reach out to you the week prior, and you design a flyer that I take with me called, I think, Commissioner Connections, and you could do that for any commissioner who's going to a public meeting or like a senior center or whatnot. They love it. And
yeah, and as I was doing it for you, I remember thinking, this information isn't just for
yeah. Yeah, and sometimes the information is specific for my district, but sometimes it isn't. And so you kind of pick and choose some of the highlights for the past month or two. And
or the specific
right.
group. So that's Commissioner Connections. So digital signage. Oh, look at that guy. What a handsome guy. So digital signage. You can't be in this building for 30 seconds before you see a digital sign. We love digital signage here because we can do so many things with it. We can hit internal audiences. We can hit external audiences. We can decide what goes on the big screen, what goes on the break room screens, right? So we can really tailor those messages. We use it for event and resource info. We use it for new employee info. We use it to communicate our values, not just on our digital signs in the public areas, in the break rooms, which you can also see it on your desktop wallpaper. We also use it for key performance indicators that the board had discussed as something they were interested in. So we're doing this in the context of more than 100,000 people visiting just this building in the last year, which is pretty incredible. And it doesn't even include people that came into the building that actually didn't get a ticket. And there are some of those folks. Talking about parking ticket, by the way. I think the number was less than that. So these are the sorts of things that we share on our digital boards, things about employees. This stuff is really good for organizational development, right? It's good for camaraderie. And so when our team members see others recognized for living out our values, they receive a powerful signal about which behaviors the organization rewards. And this is Nikki and our famous jail dog. These are those KPIs. So I'll just run through these real quick. These are great because it just gives you a quick snapshot of the type of work that we do in the county every day that maybe people have never even heard of, have no understanding of. So whether it's GIS or whether it's G-Card or Veteran Services, they can get a sense of the type of work that we do, and they can kind of see it in numerical form. GenHub has been something, I don't know if you're listening, Isabella, but Isabella and IT started GenHub, and it has been such a value added to the organization, not just from a communication standpoint, but from an organizational development standpoint as well. And this is the place where, as soon as you log into your computer every day, you will encounter GenHub. And it's a centralized platform for employee news, for info, for resources. It creates a consistency of information across departments and offices. And what we know and what we've experienced is that more informed employees become ambassadors. People, when they think things are going on, when they see local events, when they see things that Genesee County is involved in, there's a sense of pride that's there for being a part of the team. So GenHub has been an incredible success. And then 1836 Place is something we've had for going on 2 years now. This is sort of like become a repository of content, all positive about Genesee County. And that includes stuff about the parks, it includes stuff about meeting recaps, it includes stuff about veteran services, resource rallies, all that stuff is in one place. We're up to almost 650 articles now. And new content gets added daily. It's the nouns, it's the persons, the places, and things about Genesee County that make us 16,000 visitors since last August, and our top referrers are Facebook, Google, and GenHub. So our employees are engaging with the content.
There are articles that are really easy for you guys to share on your socials to talk about the work that you're doing here for residents, right? So whether it's a really important program within the health department or something really cool that's happening out at the park, it's a good tool for you guys as well when communicating with residents.
So last but not least, other than the website refresh that's coming soon, we're also going to be putting together a quarterly newsletter. I think of it more like almost like a magazine. So it'll be a publication for employees that has benefit information, milestones, employee profiles, retiree news, and some Jerome-ness. And you guys who know Jerome know what that means. So this is just a way that we can honor our employees for their time with the county, where we can talk about milestones in their lives that have nothing to do with their work, right? These are the things that build an organizational culture. So as many of you know, Jerome and I work very, very closely together to the point that people call me Jerome and they call him Jared. But we see communications and organizational development. So that partnership has been fabulous from day one. Questions?
All right, so our last category, inclusive collaborative culture. Questions for Jared or general comments about any of the items on here? Commissioner Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jared, for doing that. Couple questions. When we're talking about our CRM and the email addresses that you said they feed them in there, we can add. Are we charged when we do an email blast, or how does that work?
We pay for the service on an annual basis, and the only charge above and beyond what the annual charge is would be is if we went over emails, which is an incredibly high limit. It's I think 500,000 emails a month. We can use it as much as we want, so long as we don't go over the threshold. Yeah, so the open rate is dependent on the content. So I'll give you an example. When Brad was up here earlier, he talked about one of the largest and most engaging posts was about cyclosporiasis. And actually, the campaign that we got the most or the highest open rate was also for cyclosporiasis. Well, so I would say a good estimate for open rate would be in our organization, if you can get 20%, you're doing really well. Part of that is also related to tailoring a message, right? So if the message is really tailored to a group, you're likely to get a higher open rate. And then if you can get a click rate that's fairly high, then you're doing pretty well. But it's really content dependent.
Commissioner?
How do we determine what message we want to share as a county, though? Just asking because I'm sure there's certain messages that if I was deciding, certain people would not agree with it. And there's other messages that I've had certain employees reach out to me and say, boy, we don't really agree with this. So how do we determine this? Because for years we talked this inclusiveness of everyone, but there are certain groups of employees down here who definitely don't feel that it is. So I'm just wondering, one, as a resident, how do we determine what we're going to, as a commissioner, how do we determine what we send out to our resident, but also who's overseeing that then?
Well, I would lean on discretion, and I have a lot of it. And I would steer clear of any sort of messaging that would be deemed controversial. Obviously, I know that's debated as well. But I think, especially when you're talking about email campaigns,
Let's take it to a broader scale.
We really try to focus on the programs that are offered by the county, right, or board-approved actions. So if the board approves something, we're advertising that, the board took action on this.
I understand, but there's also other things that go out there.
I guess I would want to see those specifics because I can't think of anything off the top of my head that wasn't around. Yeah. And if you do, we can be more cognizant of that. But I think that we really try to be deliberate because we understand that there's differing views on the board, and we want to focus on things that the board approves and not go out and
No, I understand.
advocate for something.
We're supposed to be problem solvers, not problem creators.
Yeah.
That goes to my next question, though, if I may continue. As far as this Gen Hub, how do we determine what content goes on there? Because she went out, she created it, but how do we determine what content? Here's my fear. Let's say certain people have access to certain things, and one day they get mad at Genesee County. And they put something on a post, or they put something on a page. And all of a sudden we're dealing with the repercussions of it. It's a slippery slope because, in my job, we call on a lot of people who sell a lot of large ticket items and other stuff and service. And they also are responsible for sending emails, text, social media, and all the other stuff. And they're trying to look for ways to lock that down also to make sure that information they don't want getting out there is not getting there. So I just want to understand who determines what goes on the Gen Hub, and then do we have any parameters in place to protect us, or checks and balances, should I say, before something goes out?
Yeah, so Isabella created Gen Hub, but she gets content from either myself directly or another department. But largely, most of the content is content that can be aggregated from either the website or 1836.
Again, though, do we have any way of making sure we're protected against someone? How many people have access to just Jared has access to sending things out? Or
No, so like on our social media pages, right? So when I first got here, just the department or one person in the department would have access to that page. Now our office I still have access, administrative access for every social media page that we have that is not a co-elected, and Jared also has that, so that we're monitoring that. And if there's something that is not appropriate, we would take care of that.
My fear is just sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses are going to, and I don't know if it's in anybody else's world, where they actually, the content is created,
Mhm.
and then they have somebody else look it over to make sure that it's acceptable. than your organization if that's how it's done. But I'm just trying to do bringing best practices to this to protect us, because what we might think is okay, or somebody's just mad and they go, guess what, we're going to do this. It's like you always had 2 check signers at a place, because guess what, somebody might write themselves their own check.
Right.
I'm just trying to make sure we put process in
Yeah,
place where we can. We can look
talk
into it.
about ways that we can.
Commissioner Lloyd?
Just to add some clarity, so it's not approval of like every individual communication, but it is approval of like communication strategy or communication plan. These are the things that we're highlighting. This is the general overview of what that design looks like and the cadence of what that does. I even do it for my church. I just sent something out. I don't do it at our organization. We have an entire department that does it. Let me be clear. But it's something like even for the team at our church, we do the same thing. I do think that that's important, and it's not even merely about, because we have, like Jared does a great job, and I know all of the departments do a great job, but there are times and there are instances where something can be communicated in a way that's not good. I'll just say that then there has to be that kind of thing. And then I guess my concern while we're talking about it would be, there's so many people with access, and I understand that's how it's being. Yeah, there's so many different individuals with access to communicate publicly on behalf of the county. And then I go back to a general thread that I always wove together my thoughts, is that ultimately the 9 of us are responsible for it. So like, you have access, but what if there's someone, just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it cannot happen. And nobody's monitoring it. We don't have staff to monitor it 24/7. So something's out there, it's on behalf of the county, it's a challenge, and then we're being reactive. So I don't know, maybe we should even have, and it's not a discussion for tonight, but maybe we should even have policies around social media. Organizations our size, that seems very reasonable. Not that anybody's doing anything wrong, but maybe that's something we should think about. And I know I chair government operations, so there should be more conversation about that. Can I ask I have one more question, I guess, when we close this out, about a property we have down the street.
Okay. Additional discussion around this category, Gary. Commissioner Getzinger.
Jared, do we, I love it, that you're communicating with staff and all that. How much do we try to go outside and do some of this promotion, like 1836?
Yeah, and we.
People outside the county.
Sure, no, all the time. I mean, our reach goes outside Genesee County, obviously, but inside of Genesee County, a couple of weeks ago, we met with some members of E-Card, and we know it was definitely a priority to get more people involved in the early Head Start and early Head Start program. So just as one example, we got together and put communications, put a little money behind the campaign, and the campaign is still going, but we're seeing really incredible results in terms of getting people not just engaging with the content, but actually clicking through and going to the site. Once they're there, obviously we can't make anyone sign up, but we just want people to know that this is available to them, and then it's a really robust program, and it's really, really important for our residents.
Additional discussion on this topic. Dr. Brown.
I just want to say that the what do you call them? The videos around the building are so captivating. And I see people stopping to look at those, and I stop to read those, especially the ones that highlight new employees or employees, what they're doing. I think that does, it adds a lot of value to creating a positive culture. So good work with that. I do have to say that I feel, I'm speaking for myself personally, and that is I'm totally inept when it comes to social media. That's because I admittedly do not post anything. I don't know how. I don't care to know how. And I don't have anybody to do it for me. And so it's just not on my radar. And so I know that's probably a weakness. But is it something that I plan on working on? Probably not.
I mean, I could help you.
If I'm going to be honest with you. But so I think there's a gap there. Listening to Commissioner Wayhill and how he does these wonderful outreach, meetings quarterly and everything with taking newsletters or flyers. That's my style. I'm old school, paper copy, face to face. So I'm glad that you're doing it. I'm glad that you're young and energetic, and
I used to be,
and you're wise. You know about that space. I commend you for doing it. But I'm saying if you want me to engage in social media more, and I probably need to with my district, because I know I have some young people in my district that are really into Instagram. I don't own an Instagram account. Yeah. So if you want me to do more with it, you're going to have to do it for me. That's all I'm saying.
One of the things about the email that goes out, I mentioned the Commissioner Connections that goes out once a month. Embedded in that email monthly is a link where people can go just to find out who their commissioner is, because many people don't know who their commissioner is. They can punch in their address and contact information will come up, a picture of you will come up. That alone is a good step, just that people know. Yeah.
Thank you for doing that for me.
The introductory video, I could put that in the email.
Additional discussion in this category. Thank you for all that you're doing. It's a wide variety of vehicles, internal and external. Your passion always comes through, Jared, on this, and you're doing excellent work for us. I will say that I'm very happy that we're addressing the website, because that makes me crazy when I try to find something, and I'm a commissioner, so I like to feel like I can probably navigate it all right and do a search, but sometimes I can't find stuff. So if it's not easy for me, I think it's probably not easy for the average person. So I think that'll go a long way to helping us. As you say, it's our front door in many ways, our virtual front door. Anything else? All right, Commissioner Josh, do you have anything else to close us out? And then I understand. So let me just thank everybody. I know this took a while to put together, and we got high level stuff tonight in each of our priority categories. I think we decided that what we're going to do is assign these discrete items that we've adopted that are whatever color they are to certain parent committees, so they're under unfinished business, so that things like mental health, we talk about it more than every 8 or 9 months. So that's going to happen, and just want to thank Mr. Freeman for his leadership of the staff here, and all of you for the energy you bring to our work and the passion that you bring to it. So I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Lloyd. Sounds like he's got an item.
I just have a quick question. Building down the street, we don't own it anymore. That the building that G-Card was in my district, it looks terrible, absolutely terrible. I can't even remember who purchased it, but do you have any information about
When they purchased that building, there was a plan to move the Children's Museum there, and the Children's Museum ran into a funding issue, and that's why it paused.
There's like bricks falling off
The car hit it.
I know who the owner is, but I don't want to say it.
No, I don't want you to say
But I'd like Mr. Freeman to share that with you.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, all right. I think that given it's in your district and the owner is a good community citizen, So you might want to have a conversation.
I don't want.
I've told the owner I was
I
going
don't
to
want
call.
to drum it up to make it an issue.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm saying.
Concerned about it.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
Because it's right on this main
Yep.
thoroughfare. There's a lot of people.
Yep. I told the owner I was going to turn him into code enforcement if they didn't.
Mr. Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add a few things that I'd like to put on this list this next year. I think that are very important. One, a few months back ago, I brought you the census portion that we need to get on top of. When we went to New Orleans, I sat through a seminar on the census. And a gentleman out of Chicago, whose father actually was one of the people who helped put together the census, and how it's funded, chaired that. And he was talking about how many millions of dollars Illinois had given to it and all the other, but then he brought up the fact that Texas did not, and comes to find out they would have qualified for something like $34 billion that they would have lost out on. I have a lot of the informational material, but I'd like somebody to spearhead this so we can get going on this, because it's very important. If we miss out on this number, the dollars could be obviously easily in the millions to us, what we could miss out on. In addition, as far as something I feel is an issue, and I've been talking with Mr. Freeman about this, is we've had several conversations about the road commission. A lot of people have had it bringing it down here. I would like to research it. I have some concerns with bringing it down here, but I'd like those to look into that this year, because I honestly believe this is when Derek is talking about roads over there and infrastructure. Guess what? That partnership either needs to be better, or we need to do something where we're in charge of what's going on, because it affects our economic development as far as that goes. So I would like to, Joshua, there's another county or two that has brought it downtown. I'd like to know what that looks like. So we talked about working on that, but I'd like that board to make it maybe a priority or part of our.
And we do have a memo, I believe, from Corporation Council that was part of that discussion several months ago, which is sort of a step in evaluating it.
There, but I think I'd like it moved to maybe the front of the list of our priorities or whatever. And then something we talked about years ago, we have all of our commissioners, we sit on all these different boards, but we never get a report of what's going on. Like GHS, you said, who sits on GHS? Well, I think we should make it a policy that, guess what, maybe quarterly, they just type a letter up, and it's real simple. If you really have trouble with it, do what I do. I hit chat, and I go, and I talk, and chat creates what I want to say on there. And guess what? They could just send us a report like, hey, you know what's going on at GHS? This is what's up or what's down. I think we should need to make it a policy, because the chair, a lot of the time appoints these people to these different boards, or the board does. We've put people on these boards that are commissioners, and it would be nice to know what's going on, so we don't sit there in the middle of a meeting and rehash it later. I think that should be probably put into policy if we could look into something like that, or ask our board members to do it, and maybe just have a reminder to them. I think it would be big. On top of it, Mr. Freeman's trying to oversee things. We got Derek trying to oversee things. It'd be nice if they had all that information happening over there, because they're not going to them. So, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it.
Welcome. Any other comments for the good of the order? Dr. Brown?
I just want to commend the Director of Administration. I want to commend you. I want to commend our Vice Chair for bringing this session together. It's the first time that I've been involved in sort of a reflection exercise where we hold ourselves accountable. And I think it's important that we hold ourselves accountable on across the board for everything that we do, especially with the priorities that we have set forth. And so thank you for putting this together. Thank you for the thoughtfulness and explaining the current state so we can move forward with the future state.
Thank you. All right, gang. We are adjourned at 8:29. Have a good night.
I heard you.